Chapter 74. In fact, from the moment Yang Chung entered the door, Lin Ruoshi had already noticed. Because she had taken over the company from her grandmother's generation at a young age, she had been working day and night. Her phone was on 24/7, so Lin Ruoshi's sleep was not very deep. Yang Cheng's gentle and caring actions made her not want to wake up. She did not know how to face a man's care, but she felt that it was not appropriate to pretend to sleep like this. She had to face all of this. Did I wake you up? Yang Chung came back to his senses and felt a bit helpless. He felt that his hands and feet were gentle enough, but he did not expect to still wake her up. Lin Ruoshi quietly looked at Yang Chung for a while, blinked, and asked in a clear voice, "Qianni treated you to a meal, right? How is she?" "What do you mean, how?" Yang Chung was puzzled. Why was the first thing she asked about was Mo Qianni? "She's not in a good mood today," Lin Ruoshi said. "Of course not." Yang Chung sat on the stool beside the bed and smiled. "How could she be in a good mood after being kidnapped? It's something else," Lin Ruoshi said with certainty. Yang Chung frowned and thought of the phone call that Mo Qianni picked up during the meal. "Is it about her family? I only know that her family is coming and she's not in a good mood." "Indeed not in a good mood, but it should be fine now." Yang Chung naturally would not say in front of his wife, "Because your husband, I gave her a hug." Even if the iceberg girl would not care. After Lin Ruoshi said in, she closed her eyes again. The meaning was obvious. "I'm going to sleep, you can go." Yang Chung smiled bitterly. He had not told her about his own matters, so he said, "I still have something to tell you. Don't be too excited after hearing it. It's about Lin Kuan." Lin Ruoshi opened her eyes again, but she didn't say anything. She just looked at Yang Chung. "He's crazy. Maybe he couldn't stand the failure of these things, so he went to a mental hospital," Yang Chung said straightforwardly. Lin Ruoshi's body visibly trembled, but then she turned around and no longer faced Yang Chung. She said, "I got it. You can go." Yang Chung knew that she needed to be alone, so he left the ward. In the next few days, Yang Cheng's life became peaceful and comfortable. He still brought breakfast for the women in the office every morning. After some flirtatious and trivial matters, he became more familiar with Zhao Hongyan, Lu Mingyu, and Zhang Kai, the three women who were close to him. Occasionally, he would tease them, take advantage of them, and tease them until they pout coquettishly and hit him. This was also one of Yang Cheng's great joys outside of his gaming career. Department head Ma no longer harassed the women in the public relations department. According to Lu Mingyu, the old man had submitted his resignation to the company's board of directors and planned to find a chance to retire. Mo Qianni also resumed her normal work. In addition to her own work, she also took on the position of the company's vice president. Originally, the position of vice president was not occupied because Lin Ruoshi had a strong aura. There was no need for a vice president or even an assistant. But once Lin Ruoshi fell ill, many things in the company became difficult to decide. Therefore, Lin Ruoshi issued a series of orders in the hospital, allowing many of the company's daily decisions to be directed by Mo Qianni, and let the CEO's secretary, Wu Yu, who was also the cold airport woman, assist. Although Mo Qianni was young, many of the company's veterans knew that she had a good relationship with the old CEO and the current CEO. Yulei International could be said to be the private property of the Lin family, and Lin Ruoshi's words had always carried enormous weight. And the board of directors also knew Mo Qianni's performance, so no one objected. The more interesting thing that happened during this period was that after the company's employees discussed it, they went to the hospital to visit Lin Ruoshi in groups. This was something outside of Yang Cheng's expectations. Because Lin Ruoshi usually had a cold and unapproachable appearance, no employees in the company dared to take the initiative to talk to her. But he did not expect that when Lin Ruoshi was hospitalized, they actually went to visit her with such concern and enthusiasm. The group of women in the PR department also prepared many carefully selected, nourishing and beautifying gifts to send to the hospital, and also bought a large bouquet of carnations. One of the girls in the PR department even brought a camera to the hospital and took a realistic photo of Lin Ruoshi on the sickbed. In this photo, Lin Ruoshi, without any makeup, was holding a book in her hands, and her eyes were clear as she faced the visiting employees. That tranquil beauty that emanated from her bones made a group of female employees who had the potential to chase stars scream in surprise. They greatly envied the CEO for having such perfect skin and complexion without makeup. It was even more mesmerizing than makeup. At this time, Yang Cheng only realized one thing. Beautiful women were always popular, and beautiful women who paid other people's salaries were even more popular. Of course, other than the company's employees, people from the business world in Zhonghai also took the opportunity to visit Lin Ruoxi. Lin Ruoxi, who originally wanted to keep a low profile and recuperate, had to cheer up, and at the same time, talk to those smiling tigers that she usually avoided as much as possible while drinking Chinese medicine. Due to the need to deliberately keep their relationship as a couple low-key, Yang Cheng's time to go to the hospital became less. But on the second week, when he was delivering new books to Lin Ruoxi that night, Yang Cheng met a visitor that he did not want to meet no matter what. The person who came to Lin Ruoxi's ward was the policewoman Choi Yun, who had met Yang Cheng twice and had left behind unpleasant memories. But at this moment, Choi Yun was wearing casual clothes. She was wearing a white, tight, short-sleeved t-shirt from Levi Strauss, which made a pair of towering peaks and slender waist particularly eye-catching. She was wearing a pair of light-colored denim hot pants and a pair of pink Nike casual shoes on her slender, fair, and beautiful legs without any excess fat. Clean short hair, a handsome and charming face, coupled with an exquisite and tall figure. It was impossible to tell that she was the chief of the West Side Police Department. She was more like a dynamic city beauty with a rich family. When Choi Yun appeared at the door of the room, Yang Cheng wondered if his eyes were playing tricks on him. But then, when he saw the slightly meaningful smile on Choi Yun's beautiful face with distinct facial features, Yang Cheng was convinced that he did not see a ghost at night. "What a rare guest, Chief Kai." Yang Cheng welcomed her with a smile. "I know that you don't welcome me, but I'm here to visit Ruoxi." Choi Yun glanced at Yang Cheng and walked straight to Lin Ruoxi's bedside. She looked at Lin Ruoxi with some heartache. "I told you not to work too hard, but you just don't know how to cherish yourself." Lin Ruoxi obviously knew and was familiar with Choi Yun because she showed a rare smile and pointed at the thing in Choi Yun's hand. "Is that a gift for me?" Choi Yun was also holding a visiting gift in her hand, but it was not fruits, flowers, or some exaggerated 1,000-year-old chambai, mountain ginseng, or Yunnan wild Ganoderma. It was a box of glutinous rice balls. "Yes, I know what you're thinking. You've loved to eat this since you were a child, so I didn't bring anything else," Choi Yun said, and put a box of sesame glutinous rice balls on the bedside table. "Thank you," Lin Ruoxi said softly. Choi Yun pouted and pretended to be angry. "You don't have to thank me. In fact, I didn't plan to come before. You're so heartless. You didn't even tell me, your sister, that you're getting married. We've known each other since we were young." Lin Ruoxi lowered her head and chose to be silent. Choi Yun seemed to understand her character and said, "But I really didn't expect that the man you asked Lawyer Zhang to take away would be your husband. When did you start dating? Why didn't I know?" Lin Ruoxi continued to bury her head in silence. In fact, she didn't know what to say. Choi Yun knew that this topic couldn't be continued. She curled her lips helplessly and said, "Well, you've been like this since you were a child. You don't speak when there's a key issue. I actually have another thing to tell you today. Your grandfather said that he misses you very much and asked you to take care of yourself." Hearing the word grandfather, Lin Ruoxi suddenly raised her head and sneered. "I don't need his concern. Besides, I don't have a grandfather for a long time. Actually, Grandfather Lin has his own difficulties." Choi Yun smiled bitterly and tried to explain. "Yonyan, don't say any more. I don't want to hear it." Lin Ruoxi turned her head away. Yang Cheng was a little confused when he heard the conversation between the two. Lin Ruoxi actually had a grandfather, but why didn't she mention a word about it before? Moreover, Choi Yun and Lin Ruoxi had known each other since they were young. The two families must have a good relationship. Moreover, Choi Yun knew about Lin Ruoxi's grandfather. It was obvious that Choi Yun knew many secrets. But looking at Lin Ruoxi's appearance, it seemed that she didn't like that grandfather very much. In fact, she even strongly rejected him. Logically speaking, her grandmother and mother had passed away. Her father, Lin Kuan, had also gone crazy. If she had a grandfather, he would be the only family she had left. But why did she hate him so much? Seeing that Lin Ruoshi was in a bad mood, Choi Yun sighed and could only give up. She said some greetings from the elders in her family and prepared to leave. Seeing Yang Chung standing at the door, Choi Yun narrowed her eyes and said, "Ruoshi's husband, do you mind giving me a ride?" I knew it wasn't anything good." Yang Chung muttered in his heart and said with a smile, "Of course, Bureau Chief Kai, please." After following Choi Yun to the door, Yang Chung planned to find an excuse to slip away. However, Choi Yun stopped him and said directly, "Yang Chung, I have something to ask you." "Bureau Chief Kai, are you investigating a suspect?" Yang Chung smiled bitterly. Choi Yun's expression was serious. She didn't seem to be joking. "So what if I am?" "That night at Chundi Hai's residence, you were the one who did it, right?" "Chundi Hai? Chen Residences? What's that?" Yang Chung naturally denied everything and pretended not to know. "Don't play dumb. The time you passed by that place coincided with the time you left. Moreover, according to the report from our police department, the appearance of the murderer and you basically match." "Bureau Chief Kai, I have no idea what you're talking about." Yang Chung spread out his hands. "You have to have evidence to back up your words. I am a law-abiding citizen." Choi Yun snorted. "Don't play tricks. It doesn't matter if you don't admit it. One day, I will find evidence and send you to prison. As for why you married Ruoshi, I will investigate it clearly. If you dare do anything to Ruoshi, be careful of your head. Even if I don't punish you, if you hurt Ruoshi, you won't even know how you die." Yang Chun swallowed his saliva. Smiling awkwardly, he said, "You don't have to be so dramatic, do you? Is it that scary to get a wife? I admit that my wife is slightly prettier than others, but I'm honest and kind." "Shameless." Choi Yun glared at Yang Chung and quickly left. Yang Chung let out a sigh of relief. He was worried about how he could ask this beautiful officer for help in the future. He slowly walked back to the ward and wanted to say goodbye to Lin Ruoshi. However, the moment he entered the ward, he saw a very cute scene. Chapter 75. The box of glutinous rice balls had already been opened. Lin Ruoshi took out a white rice ball from within and pinched it between her thumb and forefinger. She was nibbling on it in small bites, just like a little white rabbit nibbling on a carrot when it was in the middle of a meal. Seeing Yang Chung enter the room, Lin Ruoshi blushed. She was still chewing on the glutinous rice ball in her mouth. She blinked her eyes and mumbled, "I thought you left. I can't bear to leave. Otherwise, I won't be able to see my wife eating glutinous rice balls." Yang Chung playfully smiled. Lin Ruoshi's face turned even redder, but she couldn't bear to put down the glutinous rice ball. She simply ignored Yang Chung and continued to nibble on it with relish. Actually, the iceberg woman also had a cute side. Previously, he found out that she liked to watch South Korean romance dramas, and now he found out that she liked to eat glutinous rice balls. She was also very childish when she ate. Perhaps under her cold appearance, Lin Ruoshi had a more childish heart than other women of her age. After leaving the ward, Yang Chung thought about it and dialed Xiang Wei's number. It had been a few days since he contacted this bewitching beauty. Firstly, there were many unexpected situations, and secondly, he knew that Xiang Wei would be busy. Now that everything had settled down, he began to miss that woman with a clear mind. The phone rang 3 times before it was picked up. Xiang Wei's voice was still charming. "Hubby, you finally remember to call me?" There was a hint of coquettishness and bitterness in her voice. "I'm a little busy, and I know that you're also busy." Yang Cheng's heart burned when he heard her voice. He smiled. "Are you at home? I'll look for you tonight." "You only come at night? Can't you look for me during the day?" I work during the day, but I'll look for you during the day next weekend." Yang Chung promised. Xiang Wei laughed happily. "I'm not at home, but if hubby wants, you can come to the Carnegie nightclub in the south of the city. If there's a coincidence, there'll be a good show." Although he didn't know what the good show Xiang Wei was talking about, Yang Chung still agreed and quickly drove to the Carnegie nightclub in the south of the city. In fact, this nightclub was quite famous in the West District, but because it hadn't been renovated for many years, its business gradually decreased. And the security couldn't keep up, so it gradually became one of the messy nightclubs. But none of this was important. What was important was that this nightclub's location was precisely at the border between the West Union Society and the Red Thorn Society, the two biggest gangs in the West District. It was currently West Union Society's territory, so there was only one reason for Rose to appear there: to seize territory. When he arrived at the entrance of the Carnegie nightclub, Yang Chung stared blankly. Because in front of the nightclub's entrance, Chiang Wei's familiar figure was leading a large group of men dressed in black. And beside Chiang Wei, there was a middle-aged man in a white suit saying something flatteringly. Chiang Wei's expression was indifferent as she nodded from time to time. She walked all the way to the parking lot and saw Yang Cheng's figure. Only then did she say something to that person and walk towards Yang Cheng alone. She was dressed in a well-tailored black dress and white, tight-fitting bell-bottom trousers. Her long hair was tied up in a bun, which was rare for her. In the night, she looked like a graceful black rose. "Where's the good show?" Yang Cheng asked. Chiang Wei's smile was like a flower. She seemed to be in a good mood. She didn't reply and instead walked over to embrace Yang Cheng's neck. Her captivating red lips tightly pressed against his. Yang Cheng naturally wouldn't refuse a beauty's sweet greeting. He kissed the two tender petals and nimbly stuck out his tongue to entangle the lilac in Chiang Wei's sandalwood mouth. Sweet saliva flowed endlessly. Only when the beauty in his embrace was short of breath did Yang Cheng slowly let go and lightly pecked Chiang Wei's forehead. "The good show you were talking about. It wouldn't be this wet kiss, right?" Yang Cheng asked with a smile as he caressed Chiang Wei's bright and clean face. "You don't like it? It's just a little different from what I imagined. I thought there would be a big scene," Yang Cheng said truthfully. Chiang Wei playfully winked her eyes. "Hubby, you're late. The big scene ended 10 minutes ago. Then why did you call me over?" Yang Cheng widened his eyes. Chiang Wei's innocent eyes flashed with grievance as she continued. "I wanted you to drive me back, but you never did." The mafia boss was acting like a little girl, asking her boyfriend to drive her home. Yang Cheng felt that this scene was somewhat ironic, but he also felt ashamed of his actions because of Chiang Wei's little wish. "All right, don't act like this. Get in the car, and we'll talk on the way." Yang Cheng smiled as he patted Chiang Wei's bouncy butt. Chiang Wei softly punched Yang Cheng and shyly said, "Don't be like this. My men are still watching. You're not allowed to hit but in front of them." "TSK, what's wrong with that?" Yang Cheng indifferently laughed. "I hit my woman's, but it's none of their business. I'll kill whoever doesn't obey you. You only know how to talk nonsense." Chiang Wei felt very happy when she heard Yang Cheng say "my woman." But she still gave Yang Cheng a reserved look and quickly got into the car. Late at night, it was rare to see a car on the way back to the bar. The quiet road was lined with dark trees, and from time to time, a small nightstand would appear in some open areas. Yang Cheng was not in a hurry. He talked to Chiang Wei as he drove. Chiang Wei narrated what happened at Carnegie's nightclub. "The man in white who just spoke to me is Carnegie's manager. Because West Union Society has invested too little money there, they're already unable to make ends meet. So the day before yesterday, he took the initiative to contact me, hoping to rely on our Red Thorn Society. I told him to hand over the 2 leaders West Union Society planted in his area. One is called Four-Eyed Wolf. The other is called Flower Eagle. As long as he hands over those 2, I will believe him and invest in Carnegie's renovation. At the same time, I will send people to cover his territory." He agreed? Actually, he had to agree. The person who was originally in charge of funding him in West Union Society was none other than Chundi Hai, who you killed. Now Chundi Hai's position is taken over by Zhang Hu, and after I gave him instructions, Zhang Hu selectively ignored a group of people and invested in another group of people I secretly arranged for him. Naturally, Carnegie would not be able to survive. Chiang Wei smiled like a beautiful little fox. Yang Cheng exclaimed in admiration. "This move is practical. On the surface, it looks like West Union Society's territory hasn't shrunk. But in reality, by the time West Union Society's people react, they haven't changed their territory at the same price. Instead, they have been continuously losing territory. I'm afraid it will be too late by then. It's a pity that we only caught Flower Eagle and let Four-Eyed Wolf escape. He even ran off with a sum of money, but at least he didn't lose much blood. He managed to stabilize his territory at this dividing point. A small slip-up doesn't matter, Xiang Wei said as she looked at Yang Cheng. That's hard to say. Yang Cheng suddenly smiled strangely. Who knows, it might be a perfect ending. What? Xiang Wei was puzzled. The car suddenly came to a screeching halt at the side of the road. Look ahead. Yang Cheng pointed to a spot not far from the car window. In the middle of the road ahead were two Ford pickup trucks. These large four-wheel drive pickup trucks had undergone certain modifications. They were especially high up, and the roar of their exhaust pipes was also loud and clear. The pickup truck's xenon lamps shone straight over. While it was a bit dazzling, it also illuminated the entire road as if it was daytime. It's Four-Eyed Wolf. He turned back. Xiang Wei clearly saw the figure that appeared at the very front. It was a thin man wearing glasses. His hair was spiked up, and he wore a white sleeveless shirt, revealing his shriveled muscles. Beside him stood 7 or 8 large men that were more muscular than him, but they all looked at him as their leader. Four-Eyed Wolf himself isn't good at fighting, but he is very quick-witted. It seems like he arranged for spies to monitor Carneades' movements. After discovering that I return alone with you, he decided to bully a weak girl like me. Xiang Wei calmly analyzed. Yang Cheng curiously asked, he doesn't know your skills? His position in West Union society isn't enough to clearly recognize me, so he thinks these people can stop me, and then he alone can turn the tide. Xiang Wei sneered. He's really pure, but not cute. Yang Cheng evaluated. Xiang Wei suddenly cried out and threw herself into Yang Cheng's embrace from the passenger seat. She said in a soft and spoiled voice, "Hubby, I'm scared. You have to protect me." Hearing this seductive "Hubby, I'm scared," Yang Cheng's blood immediately rushed to his head. He slapped Xiang Wei's plump buttocks and jokingly scolded, "Don't provoke me. If you continue to seduce me, I'll eat you in the car before we get home." "Okay, but hubby, look, they seem to be rushing over to smash our car," Xiang Wei angrily said. Yang Cheng sighed. This woman was becoming more and more like a seductress. Unfortunately, he also had a taste of her and couldn't take too much provocation. Perhaps it was because he truly liked her that it was getting harder and harder to resist. Okay, get up first. I'll get off and send them away. I don't have the money to repair my car if it gets smashed." Four-Eyed Wolf thought that his counterattack was incomparably brilliant, but it didn't achieve any results. The result was that all 8 people, including himself, were knocked to the ground in a short period of time and lost the ability to move. The 2 pickup trucks used to escape were also seized by the Red Thorn Society members who rushed over. As for the money they were prepared to take away, there was no need to talk about it. However, when Four-Eyed Wolf was put into a sack by the Red Thorn Society members and transported away, he still didn't understand who this man who suddenly got off the BMW was. There was no such person in the Red Thorn Society, and even in the entire Zhonghai city, there was no such person who could fight so well. Four-Eyed Wolf felt very wronged. He really hoped that this was a ring, and they could win 2 out of 3 rounds, because he still had a Type 54 pistol in his pants pocket, and he didn't have the chance to take it out during the fight. Unfortunately, the 8 people's fates were already decided the moment they fell. They were thrown into the sack, tied with lead, and sunk into the sea together with the sack. This seemingly fatal episode did not affect the young couple's mood. After Xiang Wei called Little Zhao, who was dealing with the aftermath, she and Yang Cheng quickly returned to the large, quiet room behind the Rose Bar. After a night of flirting, Xiang Wei boldly catered to him and her hot and delicate body. Yang Cheng's thirst was greatly satisfied during this period of time. In the end, Xiang Wei, who had disarmed for 5 or 6 times, really had no strength left. She weakly crossed her pair of beautiful legs and laid on the big bed. Seeing that Yang Cheng had just finished once and wanted to fight again, she couldn't help but stretch out her hand to scratch Yang Cheng's back and coquettishly shouted, "Not fair. How can a man last longer than a woman? This doesn't conform to scientific theory. Only you know about theory. You were still a little virgin before you met me." Yang Cheng said in disdain, one hand playing with Qiang Wei's exquisite chest, the pink flesh changing between his fingers into various shapes. But I've seen a lot of films on the internet. The Japanese film requires several men to take turns to film for so long. How can the real thing be like this after 2 hours? Qiang Wei's cheeks were flushed, and she was panting. Yang Chun snickered in his heart. This body of his wasn't just an ordinary man's. In fact, his stamina in bed was just one of the side effects of his body's changes. Perhaps this was the most comforting point. But these things were not good to say in front of Qiang Wei. So Yang Cheng just said, "So you have to understand that I will find a lot of women in the future. After all, I have this ability. You talk to your legal wife? I can't control you as a mistress." Qiang Wei said sourly. Lin Ruashi, that chick will not care how many women I find, Yang Cheng thought secretly. Feeling that he had rested enough, he pounced on Qiang Wei again. When he got up in the morning, Qiang Wei naturally stayed in bed and did not get up, so Yang Cheng got dressed and left. It happened to be Sunday, so Yang Cheng, who did not need to go to work, did not go to the West District Market to buy breakfast. After coming out of the Rose Bar, he drove all the way to a relatively clean wide street. After eating a big bowl of ramen in a small ramen restaurant, Yang Cheng wondered if he should go to the hospital to accompany Lin Ruashi, but when he thought that there might be a lot of businessmen he did not know visiting the patient, he thought about it and gave up. After walking out of the ramen restaurant, there were more passers-by on the street. Yang Cheng planned to drive back to the villa to watch TV and have some leisure time, but he did not expect someone to suddenly call him from the side. Yang Cheng. The voice was crisp and somewhat familiar, but he could not remember who it was at once. Yang Cheng turned his head and saw a somewhat unfamiliar girl coming from the opposite side of the street. The girl was wearing a bright yellow t-shirt, a somewhat decadent pair of tight jeans, and a pair of light green jogging shoes. Her shoulder-length hair was black and bright, and she wore a cute starfish-shaped blue hair clip. She had a pure and beautiful face without any makeup, but there was a hint of natural charm between her eyebrows. It could be imagined that in a few years, this young girl would become charming and enchanting. Do we know each other? Yang Cheng really could not remember knowing such a young girl. Besides, although the little girl in front of him was young and still in a state of development, she was also a legal sister, and it was impossible to easily forget. The girl pouted playfully and proudly said, "I knew you wouldn't recognize me. I was born beautiful, and I changed my style to make you dizzy." Looking at this arrogant expression, Yang Cheng felt that she looked a little familiar. After carefully observing for a while, he saw that there was a purple butterfly tattoo on the back of the young lady's hand, and immediately remembered who this person was. Sizing her up, he clicked his tongue and said, "I couldn't tell a delinquent girl dressed up like a student, just like Cecilia Chung from The King of Comedy. Why don't you tie 2 braids?" Chapter 76. That's right, the girl in front of him was the poor girl who was almost scared to death by Yang Cheng when she drove the Porsche 911. If he remembered correctly, her name was Tang Dang. It was just that she took off her dyed hair and changed into a relatively ordinary outfit. Her hairstyle was like a well-behaved girl, so he really didn't recognize her. "What do you mean by pretending to be a student? I'm a high school student, and I'm even a student of a key high school. Are you blind?" Tang Dang stuck out her tongue. Yang Cheng couldn't deny it and said, "What's the matter? Why are you like this? You look impatient. A beauty takes the initiative to talk to you. Can't you be a gentleman? It's like I'm your creditor, and I'm here to collect the debt." Tang Tang said unhappily, "We have different goals. If you have something to say, just say it." Yang Cheng wasn't interested in interacting with such a rich and domineering girl. She even apologized for provoking him that night, so naturally, he didn't have a good attitude. "You!" Tang Tang clenched her teeth in hatred. When she first saw Yang Chen's godly driving skills and how he beat people up like a martial arts expert, she was filled with curiosity and wanted to befriend him. She didn't expect this man to not know how to appreciate favors. Who does he think he is? Does he really think that others are afraid of him? Tang Dang, who had never been treated like this, was angry, but she knew that she was definitely not this guy's opponent. Even if she called for help, she would just be sending food to him. Her mind turned a little, and suddenly a wicked idea popped up. After making up her mind, a layer of mist appeared in Tong Tong's big watery eyes. Gradually, her face began to become pale, and her pretty face showed a sad and helpless expression. "What's wrong with you?" Yang Chen wondered. "Is this girl's ability to withstand a blow so bad? I haven't even scolded her yet, and she's already crying?" Tang Tang was sobbing and wiped her tears. Suddenly, in the scene of people coming and going on the street, she screamed and wailed, "Yang Cheng, you heartless man! You don't want me when I'm pregnant. You have no conscience." Wow! Yang Cheng was dumbfounded, and so were the pedestrians on the street. They all looked at Tang Tang, who was crying and shouting, with strange expressions on their faces. Tang Tang suddenly rushed forward and hugged Yang Cheng's waist. She cried and shook Yang Cheng, as if she was really emotional. "Boo-hoo! Yang Cheng, don't leave me. Don't leave me and the child behind. What'll I do if you leave? Will our child be born without a father? Boo-hoo! Are you so heartless that you want to kick me away when you have a new lover? Boo-hoo!" Tang Tang cried so hard that her liver and gallbladder felt like it was going to explode, and the passers-by in the surroundings also started pointing and gossiping. Many of the middle-aged women and aunties revealed expressions of pity and sorrow, sighing and moaning, while the gazes of the masses towards Yang Chen also turned into disdain and disgust. Yang Cheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This girl really knew how to look for trouble. How could she make such a joke so casually? However, the barefooted was not afraid of those who wore shoes. He didn't care about this reputation, so what was there to be afraid of? After thinking about it casually, Yang Cheng came up with a plan. He suddenly stretched out his hands and hugged Tang Tang, who was in his arms. The girl's soft waist could be felt through the clothes, and it was firm and tight that a mature woman didn't have. The touch was very good. Tang Tang felt Yang Cheng's fiery big hands holding her waist, and her delicate body couldn't help but tremble. She secretly cursed, "Don't abandon me and the child." She continued to sob and shout, "Don't abandon me and the child." The passers-by were already talking about it, and they all felt injustice for Tang Tang, the pregnant girl. Why are young people like this nowadays? I think this girl is quite pitiful. How is she going to live at such a young age? Young man, you have to be responsible. You will be punished by heaven for playing with a little girl like this. Sister, don't be afraid. I will take you to the hospital. The operation will take 10 minutes. Yang Chun couldn't be bothered with her. With an evil smile, he hooked his arm around Tang Tang, who was in his embrace, pressed down on the back of her waist to prevent her from escaping, while his other hand suddenly touched Tang Tang's chest. The girl's bud, which was still in the stage of development, had begun to take shape. When he touched it with one hand, it was just enough to fit in the palm of his hand. A burst of ecstatic elasticity and softness made Yang Cheng enjoy pinching it. "Ah!" Tang Tang screamed as if she had been electrocuted. She didn't expect this man to not be embarrassed at all in front of so many people on the street. He still had the leisure to flirt with her like this. She couldn't help but blush. Tang Tang began to struggle, trying to leave Yang Cheng's arms, but she didn't have enough strength to break free. She only felt that Yang Cheng's palm on her chest was constantly playing tricks on her. Some private parts of her body were already a little strange. Her cherry lips were slightly opened, and she was panting. Her body was as soft as water. Yang Cheng was overjoyed. He didn't expect this to be a sensitive girl. This little stimulation was already unbearable. The passers-by were also stunned. They saw that the man and woman had just put on a bitter drama. Why was this little girl lying in the man's arms with a peach blossom face and motionless, allowing the man to touch her? Tang Tang noticed all kinds of strange looks from the surrounding people. She felt like she had become a naked girl in the middle of the street. Everything was seen, and she couldn't help but cry. Let go of me," Tang Tang begged. Yang Cheng lowered his head and blew a hot breath on Tang Tang's crystal earlobe. "You are a woman who is pregnant with my child. So what if the child's father touches you?" I won't dare, I was wrong." "Yang Chun, please let me go." "Uncle, I beg of you." Tang Tang was pretending to cry earlier, but this time she was really going to wash her face with tears. She originally wanted to teach him a lesson, but in the end, she was hugged, her breasts were assaulted, and her face was completely lost. Yang Chung sneered and said, "You lack discipline at such a young age. I will teach you a lesson on behalf of your parents." After he finished speaking, Yang Chun let go of Tang Tang, but casually slapped the girl's buttocks. "Pa!" The crisp sound made Tang Tang so embarrassed that she wanted to crawl into the ground. Her eyes were filled with tears, and she bit her lips. She looked very wronged, but she didn't dare to resist. She was worried that this wretched uncle would touch her again. Tang Tang quickly took a few steps back. She looked at Yang Chung with tears in her eyes and said hatefully, "Yang Chung, I will definitely get revenge for today's debt. Up to you." Yang Chung was annoyed by this boring girl. He reached into his pocket and wanted to smoke a cigarette before going home. But at this moment, in the middle of the street, a black Chevrolet sedan suddenly swerved out of the one-way street. It was driving and entered another lane in the opposite direction. There were no other cars in the opposite lane. The Chevrolet suddenly accelerated. The engine roared, and the front of the car rushed toward where Tang Tang was standing. The black car was like a steel cannonball that suddenly rushed out of the street. It was about to hit the girl who was still wiping her tears on the side of the road. A few people who were about to leave shouted in shock when they saw this scene. "Miss, be careful." Tang Tang was puzzled and looked behind her. The black car that seemed to have moved in front of her in an instant was like a black lion pouncing on her. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, which scared her silly. Before Tang Tang's instinctive reaction could react and escape the scene, she saw the black car about to run over her. Tang Tang even felt clearly at this moment that she was going to be inexplicably killed by the car. But at the same time, Tang Tang suddenly felt a huge force hugging her waist. Then her body was involuntarily lifted off the ground and spun. In the eyes of the surrounding people, the scene just now was a completely different scene. They only saw Yang Chun suddenly exerting force from his original position, and like a white shadow, they didn't even have the time to clearly see his movement trajectory. And Tang Tang had already been transferred from her original position to the sidewalk by the roadside. The black Chevrolet continued to rush past and quickly cut into the original lane. It was as if it had just come out in a circle and overtook a few cars. Tang Tang's heart was still in her throat. After realizing that she was fine, she looked at Yang Chung blankly. "I thought I was going to die. I suggest that you don't go on the street in the future. Otherwise, you wouldn't even know if you were killed by a car." Yang Chung nonchalantly picked up a cigarette and lit it. The surrounding people had already applauded and admired Yang Cheng's heroic behavior, although they were also curious about how Yang Chung could be so fast. Tang Tang calmed down and patted her chest with some lingering fear. "I was scared to death. If it weren't for you, I would be dead. Tell me, how do you want me to thank you?" "As long as you don't give me any trouble, I'll be thankful." After Yang Chung finished, he shook his head and was about to leave. Tang Tang was indeed unwilling. She stepped forward and grabbed Yang Chung. "No, you have to at least give me your phone number. I'll treat you to a meal next time. If you don't give it to me, I'll keep following you like this." Yang Chung had no choice but to tell Tang Tang his phone number. Tang Tang even called it again, and after confirming that it was correct, she beamed with joy. "All right, I'm going to cram school, and I'm going to be late. Goodbye. I'll treat you to a meal when I'm free." Tang Tang waved her hand. It seemed that she wasn't in a bad mood because of the car accident. But before Tang Tang could take a few steps, a silver Toyota MPV suddenly stopped by the side of the road. A few strong men in black suits hurriedly walked out. "Miss, are you all right?" A short man wearing sunglasses and a walkie-talkie headset seemed to be the leader. The moment he got out of the car, he asked Tang Tang with concern. He even looked up and down as if he was afraid that Tang Tang was hurt. Tang Tang pouted impatiently. "Yongji, how many times have I told you? I'm going to cram school. I don't need so many people following me." "Miss, Zhonghai isn't safe these days. Master is worried about your safety. That's why he asked us to protect you. You have to understand your father's painstaking efforts. Don't play tricks to get rid of us. If we're not by your side and something happens to you, how are we going to explain it to Master?" The man who was addressed as Yongji advised. Seeing this scene, Yang Chung was slightly surprised. Nowadays, in a big international city like Shanghai, it wasn't rare to see rich people. There were even more rich people who could drive luxury cars. But there weren't many rich people who could afford to hire so many bodyguards to protect a little girl. At the very least, this kind of person must have a certain status in society. Otherwise, who would purposely harm his family for no reason? All right. Tang Tang interrupted Yongji's words. I know that you guys are responsible, but I don't like having so many people following me. Since you guys are so insistent, then do as you please. Tang Tang turned around and waved at Yang Cheng. She revealed a bright smile. Uncle, you're not allowed to disappear. Next time I call you, you have to pick up. Yang Cheng puffed out a ring of smoke and nodded. Yongji and the bodyguards looked at Yang Cheng cautiously. Miss, this gentleman is... Chapter 77. This is my savior. Just now I was almost hit by a car. It was this uncle who pulled me back. Tang Tang answered truthfully. What? Seeing the bodyguards reveal a serious expression, Tang Tang didn't hide anything and recounted what happened. When she talked about the danger, the bodyguards broke out in a cold sweat. If she was really hit by a car and died, then they wouldn't be able to continue working. It would even be hard for them to survive. Little Yang looked strangely at Yang Cheng and walked up to him and said, Thank you, Mr. Yang, for saving my family's young miss. I don't know if I can have the honor of inviting Mr. Yang to come with us, so that my family's master can express his gratitude. The meaning behind his words was nothing more than a suspicion that Yang Cheng had bad intentions. Perhaps he was in cahoots with the criminal and was just putting on an act to gain trust. How could Yang Cheng not understand the meaning behind his words? Not to mention that he didn't have the time to waste with them. Even if he had the time, he wouldn't be so bored as to explain anything. He waved his hand and said, I know what you guys are thinking. This matter has nothing to do with me. Whoever your family's master offended, go find that person. I only conveniently saved this girl's life. Don't blame it on me. Little Yang wrinkled his eyebrows. If Mr. Yang has a clear conscience, then you shouldn't be afraid to meet my master. Yang Cheng snorted and laughed. This has nothing to do with fear. Why does your master have to meet him if he wants to see me? Why don't you call him to see me? I'll give him a good talk. Mr. Yang, if you don't cooperate, then don't blame us for being rude. Little Yang saw that Yang Cheng wasn't willing to go with them, and felt that this man was more and more suspicious. The other bodyguards saw that their leader was going to use force, and immediately surrounded Yang Cheng, not letting Yang Cheng leave. Each of them looked fierce and hostile. At this time, Tang Tang couldn't stand it anymore. Little Yongji, what kind of attitude is this? Yang Cheng saved me. So why are you guys making things difficult for him? If he really wanted to harm me, then why didn't he just let the car hit me and kill me? Little girls are more knowledgeable than you. Yang Cheng sighed. Little Yang, on the other hand, had a solemn expression as he said, Miss, you might not know this, but many people use this kind of method to get close to their targets and then obtain even greater benefits. Miss, don't make things difficult for us. Yang Cheng laughed out loud. You've watched too much Infernal Affairs or Young and Dangerous, haven't you? I don't have time to deal with you lunatics. If you don't want to regret it, then get out of my way. That will depend on Mr. Yang's ability. Little Yang said and commanded everyone. Tie him up and bring him back. You're courting death. Yang Cheng was truly enraged. Originally, he didn't want to be too ostentatious in front of passers-by because they were on the street. However, these people were clearly idiots and wouldn't stop until they were dead. Without waiting for the bodyguards to approach, Yang Cheng threw the cigarette butt away. The strong force of his hand made the cigarette butt fly out like a small steel egg, fiercely striking the forehead of the bodyguard in front of him. That bodyguard was directly hit by the cigarette, but fell to the ground in a daze. Yang Cheng's hands and feet didn't stay idle. He did his best to move in circles. In order to not let his movements be too shocking, he used a few seemingly light karate moves. However, the power was still astonishing. When the bodyguards' fists and kicks collided with each other, the bodyguards either had their bones broken or their muscles sore and fell to the ground. If it wasn't for him restraining his temperament for the past half a year, Yang Cheng wouldn't have suspected that he had already killed them all. The shock in Lil Yang's heart was indescribable. He naturally knew the level of his subordinates' martial arts. It was more than enough to deal with those black belt karate experts one-on-one. This man's seemingly ordinary karate moves. How could he have such powerful strength? You really aren't an ordinary person. Little Yang's forehead was filled with cold sweat as he stood in front of Tang Tang, who was already in a daze. Yang Chung glared at him as if he was looking at an idiot and sneered. That's right, I'm not an ordinary person. I want to harm your families, miss. How about it? Can you beat me? You can't even protect yourself, and you want to protect your families, miss? Don't joke around, okay? Even if I die, I won't let you harm my family's little miss. Little Yang's muscles tensed up as he said to Tang Tang behind him, Miss, quickly run. This person is extremely dangerous. Tang Tang anxiously said, Little Yang bro, don't fight. You guys can't beat him. Yang Chung won't harm me. This was the first time Yang Chung had the urge to kill someone for being stupid. Rolling his eyes, he angrily laughed. Although I know that when we call others idiots, we should think about whether we are more idiotic than that person. But I have to admit that some people deserve to be scolded. You are a fucking idiot. Pointing his middle finger at the nervous little Yang bro, Yang Chung shook his head and turned around to leave. Along the way, the passers-by pointed at him, but no one dared to block Yang Cheng's path. Seeing that Yang Chung didn't have the intention to make a move, little Yang let out a long sigh of relief. He hurriedly helped Tang Tang into the Toyota and said, Miss, quickly go in. If this man comes back, it will be bad. We have to quickly leave this place. Tang Tang speechlessly looked at the sweating little Yang bro. Patting her forehead, she sighed, Little Yang bro, has no one ever said that you're an idiot before? Little Yang, who was stunned by the baffling question, nodded his head and replied, No, what's the matter, miss? Then there is now. Idiot! Tang Tang loudly shouted and left without turning her head. Little Yang was left alone to stare blankly, looking at the pile of brothers on the ground, then looking at the faraway Tang Tang. His face was filled with bewilderment. On Monday, Yang Chung once again carried a piping hot breakfast into the office. After buying so many breakfasts, he had gained some experience. For example, which shop had more meat fillings, which shop's noodles were chewy, and even which shop's soy milk had less water in it. He was very clear. These small details might not seem important to ordinary people, but Yang Chung, who enjoyed a simple life, did it with gusto. He always felt that this was similar to selling mutton skewers. Practice makes perfect. Of course, if these thoughts were to be spoken out, it would definitely attract the disdain of a group of people. Zhang Kai, who came relatively late, seemed to be in a good mood. She had a slightly permed hairstyle, making her face even rounder and prettier. She wore a blue spaghetti-strap skirt and white fishnet stockings. Her slim waist and plump buttocks swayed as she swayed her body. At the area of the short skirt that stuck to her buttocks, one could even faintly see the faint hint of her seductive cleavage. After giving a sweet smile to Yang Chung, she picked up the bag of soup dumplings. After hesitating for a while, Zhang Kai picked up 2 oiled dumplings and said, Thank you. Providing such a sumptuous breakfast every day, I've already gained 2 kilograms of weight. Yang Chung, who is currently nibbling on a sesame seed cake, suggested, Today's new sesame seed cake with mildew-dried vegetables tastes pretty good. You could try it. It's better if you keep it for yourself. I don't like to eat sesame seed cake. Zhao Hongyan, who was at the side, teased, Zhang Kai, if you continue to increase the amount of breakfast, your husband might not want you anymore. If my husband doesn't want me, I'll just find another one. Do you think I'll be afraid that no man will want me? Zhang Kai said proudly. She glanced at Yang Chung and said with sparkling eyes, Isn't that right, Big Brother Yang? Yang Chung almost choked from being called Big Brother Yang. He quickly nodded and said, Yes, yes. If he doesn't want you, I want you. Pervert. Zhao Hongyan scolded with a smile. At this moment, a skinny figure suddenly walked to Yang Cheng's side and said respectfully, Yang Chung, sorry to bother you. The person who walked over was Chun Bo, who usually didn't speak much in the office. This guy who looked like a little girl could be considered a weirdo in the PR department. What's the matter? Say it, Yang Chung said with a smile. Chunbo's face suddenly turned red, as if he was very shy. He mumbled, "There's something I need to trouble you with." "What is it?" "Say it." Yang Chung didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chunbo gathered his courage and said, "I heard that you have a car, so I want you to pick up my sister at the train station. I'm not familiar with the roads in Zhonghai, and it's my sister's first time here. I'm afraid that we'll be scammed if we rent a car, and it's too expensive, so I wanted to ask if you're free." His voice was so soft that it was almost inaudible. "Is there a need to be so embarrassed about such a small matter?" Yang Chung said with a smile. "Say it. When do you want to come?" "I'm very free every day." Chunbo smiled gratefully. "It's this Wednesday, the afternoon train." "Thank you so much. Just give me a call when the time comes." Yang Chun agreed. A few female PR employees who were sitting close to them were surprised when they saw this scene. It was very rare for Chunbo to take the initiative to ask for help. After Chunbo walked back, Yang Chung continued playing a small game. However, it was no longer Link Link. Instead, it was a game similar to Super Mario. He controlled a little person to eat fruits in various scenes. This scene was seen by a few female colleagues, and they were once again speechless towards Yang Chung. Not long after, Mo Chinny walked in gracefully in a black suit and white shirt with a light brown Chanel purse. She went to Yang Cheng's table and picked up a bag of soy milk and vegetable buns. She said, "Thank you," and walked into the department head's office. "Yang Chung, did you notice that our department head doesn't look too good? She looks quite haggard. Did she break up?" Zhao Hongyan suddenly approached and said. Yang Chung thoughtfully glanced at the office and said with a relaxed smile, "How would I know? But her attitude has improved a lot. At least she said thank you with breakfast." As he said that, he continued to play the game and ignored Zhao Hongyan's gossiping. After playing games for the whole morning, he went to a restaurant to eat lunch with the three ladies. The men of Yulei International were rather harmonious. After all, there were beauties everywhere, and there wasn't a phenomenon of fighting over food. Yang Chun had already gradually become familiar with the company's social circle and was able to greet quite a few people. After lunch, he took a nap. Yang Chung played games for a while, and it was time to get off work. As summer passed, the temperature gradually dropped. In the evening, the sun had already set. The golden light scattered on the streets of Zhonghai, and the whole city was bathed in red. The city's reinforced concrete forest was like a maple forest in autumn. It was dazzling. Driving the familiar BMW on the road, Yang Chung listened to the traffic news. In his mind, he was already thinking about what delicious food Mother Wang had prepared in the Dragon Garden Villa. But not long after, Yang Chung realized something was wrong. This was a kind of sensitivity that was cultivated from many years of special experience. When Yang Chung glanced at the car's rearview mirror, he suddenly sneered. Chapter 78. When the car arrived at the highway intersection, it made a sharp turn and drove to the other side of the road, heading towards the new industrial park in the east of Zhonghai City. When they arrived at a vast industrial area that had been shut down, Yang Chung slowed down the car and stopped the car on the muddy ground by the roadside. He took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it up quietly. He leaned against the car and looked in the direction they came from. Not far away, a black Honda Accord also silently stopped. Not long later, four rough-looking men wearing different clothes alighted from the car. The four of them were tall, short, fat, skinny. Their appearances and temperaments were all different. However, the gazes they looked at Yang Chun all harbored ill intentions and even contained some ruthlessness. "How did you find us?" A dark-skinned man wearing a flowery shirt asked. "A man's sixth sense?" Yang Chung grinned. The man in the flowery shirt frowned and asked in confusion, "Since you found out that we were following you, why did you bring us here? Did you think that we wouldn't follow you if you changed a route back home?" Yang Ching took a few puffs of the cigarette. Although he had some money, the tobacco he smoked was still quite pungent. However, it was spicy enough. After enjoying a few puffs of smoke, Yang Chung grinned and said, "I didn't say that you guys shouldn't follow me. I just purposely chose a suitable place for you guys to get off the car." "What do you mean?" The man in the flowery shirt couldn't understand the situation in front of him. They were only following the instructions to understand the man's social network so that they could take the next step. However, the unforeseen event today forced him to reconsider his next step. Yang Cheng's eyes narrowed into two slits. He laughed strangely and said, "Brothers, didn't you notice that there are no surveillance cameras around here?" Because this was an industrial area that was still under development, the surrounding infrastructure was extremely messy and dilapidated. Even the roads were not completely opened, and there were almost no cars coming and going. Surveillance cameras? The man in the flowery shirt laughed sinisterly. "This should be my advice to you. There are no surveillance cameras, so we don't have to worry about making a move." "Who knows? Maybe it's the other way around." Yang Cheng shrugged. "Big brother, this kid wants to fight? Looks like he's really stupid," one of the lackeys said with a laugh. The floral-clothed man's expression was displeased. "Young man, you can talk big, but don't force us brothers to be heavy-handed. Although we didn't receive any orders to kill you, it's not impossible to act first and report later." "Aren't you guys annoying?" Yang Cheng laughed. "If you want to make a move, hurry up. I'm in a hurry to go home for dinner." "Brat, you must be tired of living." A bearded man walked forward without saying anything. The other three also didn't say anything and surrounded Yang Cheng. "Let me tell you, *T is useless. Fists are the hard truth." The bearded man spat, clenched his fist, and attacked Yang Cheng's face. Yang Cheng easily dodged it. At the same time, he moved his feet, and a cold smile appeared on his face. "When I first returned to this land, I secretly decided that if others don't provoke me, take the initiative to hit me, or threaten me, I definitely won't make the first move. So now, I want to thank you for this fist of yours. It allows me to kill you all with a clear conscience." Everyone attacked together. The man in the flowery shirt was burning with anger. He couldn't tolerate such a young man looking down on the four of them. But the four's encirclement was obviously futile. Yang Chun casually executed a few Sanda moves. His lightning-fast speed and tyrannical strength caused the four to either break their arms or their palms, causing a huge swollen area to appear. The battle between the five of them turned into Yang Cheng toying with the four of them. "Tough guy, we can't beat him." The bearded man who attacked first cursed and covered his swollen face with his hand. The man in the flowery shirt also realized that the situation was not right. Although he was unwilling, he realized that the four of them were not on the same level as the man in front of him. "Return to the car, run," the man in the flowery shirt ordered, and the four of them quickly ran towards the Honda. Yang Cheng didn't stop them, and with a smile that wasn't a smile, he looked at the four of them as they quickly locked the car doors and windows and turned the car around in an attempt to escape. When the Honda was about to leave, Yang Cheng bent down and picked up an egg-sized pebble from the ground and weighed it in his hand. The four people in the car let out a sigh of relief after the car started. Although they couldn't beat him, they could at least escape. Moreover, no matter how good this young man was at fighting, he couldn't possibly catch up to the car. When the time comes, they could report to their superiors and bring a large group of brothers. Would they still be afraid of not being able to take revenge? However, there was always a gap between reality and ideals. After Yang Cheng picked up the pebble, he closed one of his eyes and slightly aimed. Immediately, his body bent like a thrower. He stretched out his hand and leaned back. His waist suddenly exerted force. His right hand threw the pebble. The pebble was like a miniature artillery shell, and it cut through the air with a piercing sound. Bang! With a speed that was completely indiscernible to the naked eye, the pebble hit the side of the Honda near the fuel tank. Rumble! The black Honda Accord that was still driving was like a ball of exploding flames that suddenly ignited. The raging fire rose up, and the entire car was enveloped in a ball of high temperature, and it rushed towards a telephone pole by the roadside. In the blink of an eye, the previously intact Honda Accord had become a ball of burning black charcoal. Yang Cheng looked at the murders that he had caused as if he was looking at a work of art. The reason why he waited for them to get into the car and then used this method to kill the four people was mainly because he was afraid that the police would find any clues. And killing those people at a time that people thought was the safest and most relaxed would give Yang Cheng a sense of satisfaction in his heart. This could be considered as a psychological illness that had developed over the years. Unfortunately, Yang Chung had never intended to cure this cruel illness. In your next life, remember to buy a German car. Japanese cars are too fragile. Yang Chung sneered a few words, returned to the car, and continued to rush home. Along the way, Yang Chung thought about who would do this to him. First of all, that person must not be familiar with him, or else they would not have sent someone to follow him, to find out where he lived and his interpersonal relationships. After thinking about it, Yang Chung could not confirm who it was. In the end, he could only sigh and said to himself with a blank expression, "If they want to find trouble with me, they can, but if they involve the people around me, then they all deserve to die." In the evening, after a sumptuous dinner at the villa, Mother Wang took out a bag of fashion magazines and said to Yang Chung with a smile, "Son-in-law, this is the magazine that Miss ordered. It was just delivered today. Send it to Miss on my behalf later." Yang Chung was watching the news on the TV. After hearing it, he gladly took it. "It's my duty. Mother Wang only needs to cook delicious food for us. This kind of chore should be done by us men." "No, no." Mother Wang hurriedly said, "Son-in-law, don't say that. It's mainly that I think that you should go and see Miss more, so that Miss will remember your kindness, and the two of you will be closer in the future." Yang Chung said with a wry smile, "Mother Wang, do you trust me so much that you push Ruashi so firmly into my arms?" Mother Wang said with a straight face, "Son-in-law, I watched Miss grow up. I haven't been able to have children in my life. To be honest, Miss is like half a daughter to me. After old Madam and Madam passed away, I hoped that Miss would find a good husband. Miss has been so beautiful since she was young. Of course, there are men who like her all over Zhonghai, but those men are too vain." As she said that, Mother Wang looked at Yang Chung with satisfaction and smiled. "Unlike you, I'm old, but my eyes are not blurry." Although the son-in-law doesn't say it out loud, he truly cares about the young miss. From the day the young miss fainted, the son-in-law's eyes, I can see that the son-in-law cares about the young miss very much. It's just that, like the young miss, he's not good at expressing it. Young people like you sometimes care too much about face, but face is not as important as feelings. Yang Chung was silent for a long time and said with a faint smile, "Mother Wang, you should become a psychologist. You make me doubt whether I am myself." "Son-in-law, don't think too much. Just take it that this old woman is talking nonsense. Hurry up and send the magazines to Mississippi. Miss might fall asleep if you're late." Mother Wang smiled and urged him. Yang Chung picked up a bag of magazines and looked at them. Most of them were fashion and the latest season's introductions of famous international brands. Presumably, as the CEO of a fashion company, Lin Ruashi must have personally learned about these products. They quickly set off from Dragon Garden to the hospital. When they drove to a small commercial street, Yang Chung glanced at a lit shop from the corner of his eye. He couldn't help but smile knowingly when he arrived at the hospital ward. It was almost 10:30 at night. Most of the wards had turned off the lights, but Lin Ruashi's ward was still brightly lit. Yang Chung deftly opened the door. He looked up and found that Lin Ruashi wasn't the only one in the ward. The person who came was Lin Ruashi's secretary, Wu Yu, who had a jet-set figure. He didn't know if she was cold to begin with, or if she learned from Lin Ruashi, she was an extremely cold and plain woman. Lin Ruashi was lying on the bed. The table in front of her was filled with all kinds of documents. She was holding a silver pen and writing something. Wu Yu stood at the side with a serious expression, tidying up the documents from time to time and handing over other documents. Seeing Yang Chung enter, Wu Yu frowned. "What are you doing here?" Yang Chung lifted the paper bag in his hand. "I'm here to send some magazines over." "Why do you need to send them? Who do you think you are to the CEO?" Wu Yu was very dissatisfied as she reprimanded. Yang Chung thought that since she was Lin Ruashi's trusted aide, there was no harm in saying it out loud. However, before Yang Chung could speak, Lin Ruashi indifferently interjected, "He's my distant relative." With that, Lin Ruashi signaled with her eyes to stop Yang Chung from saying anything else. Her legal husband had become a distant relative who was completely unrelated. Yang Chung touched his nose and smiled bitterly. He originally thought that the two of them had become much closer over the past few days, but now it seemed that in Lin Ruashi's eyes, he was just an acting partner who had signed a contract. She didn't really accept him as someone close to her, nor did she have any thoughts of acknowledging him as her husband. He was slightly disappointed, but fortunately, his mental endurance was good, and he was already mentally prepared. He wouldn't be too naive to think that the iceberg woman would be so easy to conquer. Yang Chung just smiled casually and didn't say anything else. He placed the paper bag on Lin Ruoshi's bedside table and said, "Mother Wang asked me to send it over. She said that it's the magazine you ordered this month." Wu Yu revealed a look of realization. It seemed that this famous PR actor in the company was only able to enter the company because of the title of distant relative. She looked at Yang Chung with even more disdain. She said somewhat unkindly, "If there's nothing else, put it down and leave. Don't disturb the CEO's work." Yang Chung originally wanted to persuade Lin Ruoshi to not be too tired at night. However, seeing that she only had her head lowered and was only looking at the documents, completely ignoring him, he didn't ask for a rebuff. "Then I'll leave." Although he was a little unhappy with Wu Yu, she was, after all, Lin Ruoshi's secretary, so it wasn't good for him to flare up. Thus, Yang Chung also sulked and couldn't be bothered to lower himself to her level. After Yang Chung turned around and left, Lin Ruoshi slightly raised her head and looked at Yang Cheng's silhouette with her watery eyes. That usually unruly and carefree silhouette actually looked a little lonely under the light. Involuntarily, Lin Ruoshi felt a little regret in her heart. She didn't even thank him, but her bashful personality made her not know how to say it. When the door closed, Lin Ruoshi unnoticeably sighed and continued to deal with the documents. About an hour later, it was already late at night. Wu Yu looked at her watch and couldn't help but say, "President, let's call it a day. I'll take the documents back and sort them out. Tomorrow, I'll hand them over to Department Head Mo. Since the important matters have been dealt with, you should also rest." Lin Ruoshi rubbed her temples. These days, she had been taking Chinese medicine, recuperating, and receiving visitors. At night, she was really a little tired, so she nodded and said, "Tell Department Head Mo that I'll personally handle the documents for the fall fashion show and the plan to expand the Japanese market. As for the rest, let her do as she sees fit." "Yes, President." Wu Yu was very efficient. In less than 5 minutes, she finished all the documents and left respectfully. Lin Ruoshi completely relaxed and let out a long sigh. She leaned her head on the soft pillow and glanced at the big bag of magazines that Yang Chung brought. After thinking for a while, she took the bag and planned to read the magazines before going to sleep. Just as she opened the bag, a familiar fragrance of glutinous rice suddenly came out. Lin Ruoshi was stunned. After taking a closer look, she realized that in addition to more than 10 magazines, there was actually a box of glutinous rice balls wrapped in transparent plastic. Slowly taking out the box, Lin Ruoshi looked at the 10 round balls of dough inside. There were white, black, green, and all kinds of colors. Moreover, they were still hot with steam. Of course, Lin Ruoshi knew that Mother Wang didn't bring them for her, because when she was young, she ate glutinous rice balls and got a stomachache. Mother Wang didn't allow her to eat glutinous rice balls anymore. Therefore, it could only be that person who bought them for her. Was it because Choi Yun mentioned that she liked to eat glutinous rice balls last time? Because of that casual conversation, he remembered what she liked to eat. She thought about what she said to Yang Chung just now, how she treated him coldly like a stranger, and how Yang Cheng's back looked when he walked out. Without realizing it, Lin Ruoshi's eyes were filled with tears. For the first time in her life, looking at her favorite glutinous rice balls, Lin Ruoshi had no appetite at all. Chapter 79. After leaving the hospital, Yang Chung felt a bit stuffy. He sped along the highway for a while before he felt much better. It was already 11 or 12 o'clock at night. Many places in the suburbs of Zhonghai were lit up with all kinds of lights. If it was a month ago, Yang Chung might have been more interested in those pink hair salons. But now, if he really wanted to indulge himself, going to Rose to look for Chiang Wei was obviously more worth it. When he thought about it, he felt that his actions were somewhat inexplicable. Chiang Wei, who was wholeheartedly good to him, rarely cared about him. As for Li Jingjing, she would be happy for half a day just to see her. Not only did he not care for a woman like her, He even wanted to buy glutinous rice balls for Lin Ruashi from the snack bar at night. Perhaps it was because she was too similar to the woman in his memory. Or perhaps the saying, "what you can't have is the best," was really suitable for everyone. With a trace of guilt towards Chiang Wei, Yang Chung decided not to look for her. When he drove to a night snack area in the West District, he got out of the car and planned to find a noodle stall to drink some beer and eat a bowl of noodles. At midnight, all kinds of unlicensed hawkers would start their night snack business on the streets of Zhonghai City, as long as it was not on the main road. If he was lucky, no one would manage it. If he was unlucky, the city management and police officers might completely dismantle the pastries. After sitting down at a relatively quiet noodle stall, Yang Chung shouted to the stall owner who was cooking noodles, "Boss, a bowl of shredded meat noodles and 2 bottles of beer." The owner was a middle-aged man. After listening to him, he obediently replied with a smile, "Okay, I'll get it for you soon." Hearing this, Yang Chung suddenly felt that the voice was a little familiar. He looked over and couldn't help but laugh. "Why is it you?" The noodle stall owner looked up in confusion. After a careful look, he finally recognized Yang Chung. His legs almost gave way, and he fell to the ground, his face bitter like a bitter gourd. So it's you, huh? Huh, what a coincidence. The noodle stall owner in front of him was an acquaintance who had brought Yang Chung into the police station. Feng Biao, Captain Feng. The officers of the West Side Police Department, who used to wear police uniforms and give orders, were now wearing dirty cotton shirts and aprons, selling noodles on the street as unlicensed hawkers. Yang Chung pondered for a moment and asked with uncertainty, "Did you change your job, or were you fired?" Feng Biao blushed and said shyly, "I was fired. This is karma." Yang Chung smiled and shook his head. "But don't worry, I didn't take it to heart. You should continue to cook the noodles. Don't let them burn." Feng Biao, who originally thought that Yang Chung was going to hit him when he was down, was delighted. He knew that if they were to fight, he wouldn't be able to beat him, and his stall didn't have a license, so he would definitely be at a disadvantage. He was just worrying about it, but the other party actually didn't care about the previous conflict. How could Feng Biao not be overjoyed? Thank you, little brother." Feng Biao was almost moved to tears. "I didn't have a choice. I also know that I did a lot of wrong things in the past. Thank you, little brother, for forgiving me." Yang Chung said indifferently, "Cook your noodles." Okay, this meal is on me, little brother. I won't charge you." Feng Biao continued to busy himself as if he had been pardoned. Yang Chung smiled a little. This brother was really living a pitiful life. When Choi Yun said that she would punish him severely, he thought it was just words. He didn't expect that girl to really fire Feng Biao. This was not determined by the level of official position. Presumably, Choi Yun's background was not ordinary. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said what she wanted and put Feng Biao in this situation. Thinking of what Choi Yun said in Lin Ruashi's ward that day, and about Lin Ruashi's grandfather, Yang Chung couldn't help but wonder. Since the two women knew each other since childhood, did his wife also have an official background? Why did Lin Ruashi hate her grandfather so much? While he was thinking about these clueless things, Feng Biao had already mixed the noodles. He walked over with 2 bottles of beer and smiled. "Little brother, please enjoy. If there's anything else you want, feel free to ask." Seeing that Feng Biao was already used to being a noodle vendor, Yang Chung felt that this person wasn't too bad. At least he understood his position and knew when to yield and when to stand tall. At the very least, his life wouldn't be too bad. After eating a few mouthfuls of noodles and drinking a few mouthfuls of beer, Yang Chung was feeling refreshed. But suddenly, there was a noise coming from an alley not far away. "Kid, don't run." "Stop. I'll beat you to death if you run again." "Stop." Several yelling men suddenly dashed out from the other side, shouting angrily as they chased after a relatively small figure. Yang Cheng's eyes were sharp. With a slight glance, he couldn't help but wonder if he was hallucinating. The figure being chased was a man with snow-white skin, wearing a white short-sleeved shirt. It was another man in the office, Chun Bo. Chun Bo seemed to be in a very sorry state. He ran in the direction of a noodle stall with a face full of panic. There were at least 7 or 8 men chasing after him, and they were obviously faster than him. It seemed like they were about to catch him. Although Yang Cheng didn't understand what was going on, he had to help Chinbo. So he picked up a stool beside him and threw it with all his strength. The stool spun and smashed into the thighs of the two men in front. The two men screamed and fell down. The group of people were also shocked and stopped in their tracks to look at Yang Cheng. Many of the customers at the noodle stall saw this scene and felt that the situation wasn't good. They hurriedly dodged to the side and didn't dare to approach. Chinbo was also surprised to see Yang Cheng suddenly. Because of his fear, he didn't care about anything else. He panted and ran behind Yang Cheng, trembling and not daring to face the group of men. "Chinbo, what are you doing?" Yang Cheng turned around and asked with a smile. Chinbo didn't know if it was because he was shy or because he was tired from running, but his face was red and he said softly, "They don't want to catch me. I don't want to go catch you." "Why would they catch you?" Without waiting for Yang Cheng to continue asking, the group of men were already furious and started cursing him. "You've eaten a bear's heart and leopard's gall. Do you know who we are? He's my colleague. Before I know why you want to catch him, I have to protect him," Yang Cheng said. When Chinbo heard this, his eyes couldn't help but turn red. He was obviously moved. "Brat, you want to die too? Then we'll help you." A few hoodlums who were already on the verge of venting rushed up without saying anything. But how could their messy punches and kicks enter into Yang Cheng's eyes? With a few light slaps and a few kicks on the stomachs of a few hoodlums, the menacing people tasted the consequences of their actions and fell to the ground in a miserable state. Chinbo stared blankly at how easily Yang Cheng solved such a big problem. He couldn't help but look at Yang Cheng in awe. "Brat, you got guts. Let's see if our boss will take care of you when he comes," a hoodlum wearing a silver chain shouted. Without waiting for him to finish, another hoodlum shouted, "The boss is here. The boss is here." They saw that there was indeed a group of people coming from the direction they came from. The person leading the group was wearing a white shirt with both hands in his pockets. He had an arrogant look on his face. He was the person they called boss. The few hoodlums hurriedly got up, beaming with joy. They rushed forward, wanting to complain to their boss, and let that boss teach Yang Chen a lesson. But who would have thought that before they even walked over, that boss had already taken the initiative to welcome them? "Mr. Yang, it's been a long time. We meet again. Good evening, Bosqua. I didn't expect to see you here." Yang Cheng almost laughed out loud. So their boss was the Guizi Hang who gave him money back then. He was also the head of that hoodlum company. The poor man who couldn't even scare him with a rifle that day and was completely defeated by him. "It seems like Mr. Yang and I are quite fated to meet." Guizi Hang seemed to have forgotten about their old enmity and took the initiative to shake hands with Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng also generously shook hands with him as if they were really good friends who hadn't seen each other for a long time. Little did he know that the image in their hearts was as different as heaven and earth. "Since it's an old friend like Bosqua, I think there's no need to say anything more," Yang Cheng said lightly. The hoodlums who were arrogant earlier were now dumbfounded. Why was their boss so friendly with this strange man? They could only stare at him without saying anything. Guizi Hang's expression stiffened, and he smiled bitterly. "Mr. Yang, you may not know this, but we were actually entrusted by someone. We were ordered by someone to bring the person behind you back. Otherwise, I won't be able to explain myself." Yang Cheng was a little surprised. Guizi Hang had a rough understanding of his strength. He should know that he would definitely be at a disadvantage if he fought, but he still insisted on bringing Chinbo away. Who exactly was Chinbo? "Bosqua, did my friend break some sort of taboo in the underworld? Or does he owe you money?" Yang Cheng asked in confusion. Guizi Hang smiled guiltily and sighed. "Mr. Yang, why don't you ask what's going on with your friend?" Yang Cheng nodded and looked at Chinbo. Chinbo's legs were already trembling, and her back was drenched in sweat. Seeing Yang Cheng's questioning gaze, she opened her small mouth. I. They want me to receive a guest." "Receive a guest?" Yang Cheng frowned. Chinbo's face was as red as an apple. She lowered her head, and her voice was almost inaudible. "They want me to serve a man." Yang Cheng was startled. Only then did he understand Chinbo's meaning. To be honest, he had a strange feeling in his heart. He didn't think that Chinbo who was usually full of femininity, would actually be fancied by a man. It was always wrong to laugh out loud. Fortunately, when he was overseas, he had seen many similar situations. Yang Chung didn't feel too uncomfortable. He turned to Guo Ziheng and said, "That's not good. You see, my friend doesn't have this kind of idea. Don't force him." Guo Ziheng smiled bitterly. "Mr. Yang, with you here, how could I dare to force him? It's just that person over there. I really can't afford to provoke him." Chapter 80. Yang Chung understood. To be able to send Guo Ziheng to chase after someone, he must be someone important. At least Guo Ziheng wouldn't dare offend the leader of the hooligans, but he couldn't beat Yang Chung in a fight. His fear of Yang Chung was hard to erase, so he was trying to push the responsibility away. Okay, don't show that sly expression." Yang Chung smiled indifferently. "Just tell him my name. If he's looking for trouble, come at me. I'll be waiting for him at Lei International's PR department." Mr. Yang is really a straightforward person. Guo Ziheng laughed and called out to his followers, "Let's go." How could Yang Chung let him go so easily? He waved his hand. "Wait, I'm not finished yet." Guo Ziheng stopped in his tracks. He had a bad feeling that something bad was about to happen. He asked stiffly, "Mr. Yang, do you have any other orders?" Yang Chung laughed. "Boss Guo, I'll take care of these things. There should be some processing fees, right?" As he said this, he rubbed his fingers. Sure enough, extortion again. Leech, pervert. Guo Ziheng cursed in his heart, but he could only put on a happy expression. He asked his followers to pass him a check. He quickly scribbled it and handed it to Yang Chung with both hands. He smiled and said, "Mr. Yang is right. I really didn't think it through." His followers were dumbfounded. What was wrong with their boss? Giving money to someone and still acting like a grandson? Yang Chung nodded in satisfaction. He flicked the check in his hand. This was Ziheng was quite smart, giving 20,000 Xia dollars. Yang Chung smiled and said, "You guys can go. I'll take care of everything else." Guo Ziheng didn't dare to stay any longer. If he stayed another minute, he might lose tens of thousands of dollars. He quickly left with his followers as if they were hiding from a ghost. Watching the group leave, Yang Chung smiled and turned around. He looked at Chun Bo, who was still in a daze, and said, "Don't you have anything to explain to me?" Chun Bo swallowed his saliva and said, Thank you, Yang Chung. That's it." Yang Chung asked with a smile that wasn't a smile. Chun Bo fiddled with the corner of his clothes, but his face was red and he couldn't say anything. Yang Chung didn't force him. He walked to a corner of the noodle stall and grabbed a few bottles of beer. He said to Feng Biao, who was hiding on the side, "Mr. Feng, can I bring a few bottles of beer?" Of course. Feng Biao cursed in his heart. This was simply a god of plague. He had already fallen to such a state, yet he still came to harm him. If those hoodlums really came in a fight, wouldn't they tear down his little stall? Yang Chung gave Chun Bo a look. "Follow me." As they strolled to the riverbank in the suburbs, the two of them remained silent. The cool breeze blew gently, making the place seem quiet and strange. When they reached a slope, Yang Chung sat down on the grass and stopped. Chun Bo hesitated for a moment before sitting down beside him. "Do you know how to drink?" Yang Chung picked up a bottle of beer. With a slight twist of his hand, the bottle cap was unscrewed. Chun Bo swallowed his saliva and nodded. After receiving the beer, he took a big gulp, but after only a few mouthfuls, he choked and coughed a few times. Tears flowed down from his eyes, but before he could regain his composure, he began to gulp again. It was as if he had a grudge against the beer. Yang Chung didn't stop him. He took his own bottle and drank a few mouthfuls. Chun Bo's alcohol tolerance was obviously very poor. After only a few mouthfuls, his face was already burning red, and his eyes were a little dazed. The night breeze blew past the riverside, allowing one's mind to clear up a little. Chun Bo, who had more or less drunk, felt his breathing become much smoother. Suddenly, he put down the empty bottle of wine, turned his head, and looked straight at Yang Chung. On the face of a man that seemed overly delicate and pretty, an unprecedented serious expression appeared. "Yang Chung, do you look down on me?" Chun Bo asked. "If I looked down on you, I wouldn't have taken on this mess to save you." Yang Cheng glanced at him. Chunbo's lips slightly trembled as he said, I'm not that kind of person. I was forced. I don't like men. Actually, to be honest, you also know that I came from overseas. Being gay is nothing in my eyes, so you don't need to explain this to me. Whether you're gay or not doesn't matter to me. I just want to know how all of this happened. Yang Cheng said. Chunbo nodded as if he was mentally prepared. He slowly said, You've helped me so much, so I should tell you everything. Even if you look down on me after you hear it. When I was young, my family was poor, but my grades were very good. Because of my weak body, I was bullied at school, but I was still recommended into Peking University. Because I looked like a girl, a lot of people at school made fun of me. In my third year of university, a senior from the basketball team suddenly asked me out for a meal. His family was very rich, so I didn't dare to refuse. But after I went that day, he drugged me to do that kind of thing to me. At this point, Chunbo's eyes revealed a bit of pain, hatred, and unwillingness. I only found out later that he liked men. But he didn't allow me to tell anyone, and I didn't dare call the police because I had no relatives or friends in Beijing, so no one would help me. And at that time, I was worried that people would look down on me and see me as a different person, so I endured it. After that time, that senior asked me to go out and do that kind of thing many times. But he would give me some money so that I would have an easier time studying in Jing City. Sometimes, I would send the extra money to my parents back home for them to use. At that time, I thought that it was okay to suffer a little. It was better to get some money than to suffer for nothing. But later, that senior started asking other men to come too. Only then did I find out that they had a club that specialized in doing that kind of thing. Those people were all very rich, so I couldn't resist. So after I graduated from university, I almost didn't talk to others because I was afraid that I would give myself away and let others look down on me. Yang Cheng sighed his heart. It turned out that Chunbo had such a dark past. Although in his opinion, it wasn't too miserable, but if it was an ordinary university student in China, it would be very difficult for him to bear it. Not only did he betray his dignity as a man, but he also sold his soul. Chunbo continued. After I graduated, many companies wanted me to join them, but I still came to Zhonghai. That way, I could get rid of those men who torture me in Beijing. Fortunately, I succeeded. They probably got tired of me, so I worked at Yulei International until now, and no one came looking for me. But some time ago, I ran into trouble and it needed a lot of money all of a sudden. What kind of trouble? Yang Cheng asked doubtfully. My father had a chronic disease from doing hard labor when he was young. A while ago, he was diagnosed with kidney failure and needed a kidney transplant. Although our family is better off than before, we don't have that much money. So you want to earn money through other means? Yang Cheng thought for a moment, then asked, A few days ago, I saw a person in Heavenly Province who looked like you. Was that you? Chunbo was shocked. You were in Heavenly Province? The person you saw was indeed me. I was working there. No wonder you were so sleepy in the morning and didn't sleep at night. Yang Cheng suddenly understood. In Heavenly Province, there is that kind of service. Chunbo thought about it and generously said, There are many male customers who like men. I occasionally go there and get a lot of tips. Although it's a bit hard to bear, at least I can earn some money to support my family. Besides, I've already done that kind of thing before, so I'm just smashing the pot. At least I can get money for my father's illness. Then what about today's matter? Yang Cheng asked again. Chunbo bit his lips and painfully said, That's a pervert. That man is basically a madman. I saw him playing with other men in Heavenly Province. His methods could torture people to death. I happened to see it that time, so I was afraid that one day it would be my turn, so I kept hiding from him. But today, that man wanted me to go over. That gangster boss who caught me was playing with him, so he wanted to catch me and give me to him. I don't plan to work in Heavenly Province anymore. Tomorrow I'll quit and find another place to work. Do you know what his name is? Yang Cheng roughly understood the cause and effect. He thought that the pervert Chunbo was talking about was already a homosexual act that he was ashamed to speak of. Chunbo shook his head. I only know his surname is Zhou. They all call him Young Master Zhou. I don't know anything else, but he seems to have a lot of power. That gangster boss, surnamed Guo, always flatters him. Yangqing thoughtfully nodded his head, relaxed with a smile, and patted Chun Bo's shoulder. You don't need to worry too much. If your father lacks money for his illness, you can ask me to borrow it. You can slowly return it to me in the future. Although I don't have any achievements, I can still help my friends. Besides, money spent can still be earned, but if the person is gone, then there's nothing left. Thank you. Chun Bo couldn't help but shed tears. Wiping them away, he smiled and said, I know you're a good person, but I don't want to borrow your money anymore. My sister and I have already gathered enough money and borrowed a lot of money from our relatives and friends. My sister came to Zhonghai on Wednesday to work here and work hard to return the money with me. Your sister came to Zhonghai to work? Doesn't she need to go to school? Yangqing originally thought that Chun Bo's sister was only here to visit Chun Bo. Chun Bo bitterly shook his head. My sister is very sensible. She dropped out of school midway, but their university has retained her student status. She can still go to school in 2 years. Every family has its own problems. Since you said you don't need to borrow money, then I won't force you. But if you need any help, you can tell me. I'm very free. You know that. Yangqing winked. Chun Bo said a lot of things on his mind. Seeing that Yangqing didn't look down on him, his mood became much better. He couldn't help but blush and say, Yangqing, if I were a woman, I would definitely marry you. You're a real man. Looking at the pretty boy Chun Bo's blushing face as he said those words shyly, Yangqing's whole body quivered. He hurriedly waved his hand and said with a stiff smile that we'll talk about it in our next live. Chapter 81. The next morning, when he arrived at the office carrying bags of breakfast, the beauties in the office were much more lively than usual. A group of beautifully dressed office ladies were gathered around the wall of the office's bulletin board. They were looking at a new announcement on it, laughing and discussing something. It was the first time no one came to welcome him when he brought breakfast. Yangqing was a little depressed. He walked over curiously and saw that it was actually an announcement about a group vacation. Yulei International's benefits were famous throughout Zhonghai, so every year they would organize a vacation for the company's members. One reason was to relax, and the other was to promote team harmony. Zhang Kai, with a face full of excitement, saw Yangqing walking over and happily patted Yangqing's chest. Yangqing, look, there's so many places to choose from this year, I don't even know where to choose. Yangqing took a closer look at the options on the notice. It was indeed rich and varied. Not only were there local routes with different styles like Yunnan, Northwest, and Pearl River Delta, there were also overseas routes like Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Japan, and Korea. Of course, different places required different amounts of funds. Therefore, the employees were organized into batches and their finances were adjusted accordingly. The remaining funds were distributed to the employees as bonuses. What do you guys choose? Yangqing asked. Of course it's Japan. It's winter. We can go to Hokkaido to see the snowy scenery. How romantic. A young lady exclaimed. I want to go to Korea. Who knows? I might meet a handsome celebrity. I think you're going for plastic surgery. Ha! You're going to die. The group of beautiful women laughed and joked around. Lu Mingyu asked with interest, Yangqing, where do you want to go? You can't not choose. This is a team activity. If you don't participate, you'll be looked down upon by the group. Yangqing really didn't plan to go. After all, he had just returned to China half a year ago. He wasn't in the mood to wander overseas, but when he heard that he might anger the ladies, he could only smile awkwardly. I'll go wherever you guys go. Actually, I think the local attractions are fine. It's boring to go too far. How can other countries compare to our Huaxia scenery? Zhao Hongyan wrinkled her nose. Of course you would say that since you came back from overseas, we rarely go overseas. We haven't even been on a plane a few times. That's right. You can follow us there and help us carry our bags. Zhang Kai clapped her hands excitedly and ran off to get breakfast after she finished speaking. Just as the office was in a heated discussion, Imo Chinni, who was wearing a light gray suit, suddenly walked in from the office door. Her slender figure was curvy, and the white pantyhose under her short skirt outlined the shape of her slender legs. She was holding a white lady's briefcase in her hand, and she wore a silver-rimmed glasses. She stood there with a frosty face, and the aura of a strong career woman was particularly strong. The office instantly quieted down. The female employees ran back to their seats timidly, quietly looked up at their superior, and didn't dare to make a ruckus. Mo Chinny walked in, her high heels clicking, and said slowly, "The holiday is in winter. Whether you can get it or not depends on your work performance. Don't blame me for not reminding you." It wasn't until Mo Chinny walked into the office that the group of beauties whispered to each other. "The director seems to be in a bad mood these few days. Maybe she's under a lot of pressure. Although she's the vice president, it's not easy. Could it be early menopause? She'll be careful not to be heard." Yang Chung was a little surprised. It seemed like Mo Chinny had been going to Lin Ruashi's place less these few days. She didn't even take breakfast from his table today. It seemed like she had a lot on her mind. In the evening, when it was time to get off work, Yang Chun was hesitating whether or not he should pay a visit to old Li's family. He hadn't contacted them recently, and in his heart, he missed Li Jingjing. He wondered if she was harassed by Jiang Shua at school. But before Yang Chun could make the call, Wang Ma called him. "Son-in-law, there's a guest looking for you," Mother Wang said over the phone. "Guest? Who is it?" Yang Chun didn't remember anyone he knew who knew where he lived. Mother Wang hesitated for a while. "I don't know either, but they don't look like bad people. They all look decent. It's just that their words are a little rushed." "All? Do you mean a lot of people?" Yang Chun was even more baffled. "Son-in-law, you should come back and take a look first." Mother Wang obviously didn't know what was going on. After Yang Chun drove home, as soon as he got off the car, he saw 2 black Passats parked at the door of the villa, but what was noteworthy was the license plates. They were 0007, 0008, and the red font was particularly conspicuous. Although Yang Chun wasn't very familiar with some of the departments in Huaxia, he also knew that such a car must have an official background. Before Yang Chun walked through the door, a few men in black suits had already walked out of the house. Each of them had a serious expression with a bit of arrogance, and their chests were bulging and strong. "This is Mr. Yang." A tall man opened his mouth and said, "Please come with us." These words could be said to be completely in a commanding tone, and Yang Chun naturally wouldn't have a good face to them. "Commanding me?" As early as 10 years ago, there was no one in this world who could do that. "Who are you? Where'd I want to go with you? I'm not a 3-year-old child. You won't kidnap and sell me, right?" Yang Chun smiled lightly. The tall man said coldly, "You don't need to ask this. You just need to do what we say. You have no right to ask." When did Huaxia suddenly become a feudal society and a slave society? This seems to be about personal freedom. You want me to go with you without asking for any reason. What's the difference between this and kidnapping? The tall man sneered and said, "Yang Chun, I'll ask you one more time. Are you leaving or not? Your nonsense is useless against us." At this time, Mother Wang came out of the house. When she saw this scene, she shouted in shock, "How can you people be like this? Our son-in-law is not a criminal. How can you just take him away?" In Mother Wang's heart, Yang Chun was the master of the family. He was also the backbone of her and Lin Ruashi. Even if Lin Ruashi didn't think so, Mother Wang had long regarded Yang Chun as a family member. Now that this group of people suddenly wanted to take Yang Chun away with such an unkind expression, Mother Wang certainly wouldn't allow it. There was a trace of annoyance in the tall man's eyes. He waved his hand, and a man in a suit behind him directly went up and grabbed Mother Wang's hands and dragged her into the house. He ignored Mother Wang's shouts of resistance. Seeing this scene, Yang Chun suddenly narrowed his eyes. He couldn't be bothered to care about the background of this group of people. Would it alarm the secret forces in Huaxia? Although these things would cause a lot of trouble, at this moment, it was far from being as unbearable as them bullying a defenseless woman like Mother Wang. "You don't have to go back today." Yang Chun stuffed the BMW key into his trouser pocket and said with a cold gaze. The tall man knew what Yang Chun meant. He couldn't help but laugh wildly. "Yang Chun, we said please because we think highly of you. If that person wants to see you, it's your good fortune that you've cultivated for a few generations. To tell you the truth, if it were up to us, we would have directly arrested you as a suspect of illegal activities. It would have saved us a lot of trouble. However, that person is magnanimous and wants to see you first. Don't be ungrateful and think that you're so great just because you know some martial arts. In our eyes, you're nothing. You talk a lot of nonsense." Yang Chung impatiently walked towards the tall man. The tall man's eyes flashed, and he shouted, "Catch him." A few burly men in suits immediately rushed towards Yang Chung. Their hands were like iron pincers as they tried to grab Yang Cheng's arm. Naturally, Yang Chung wouldn't let them have their way. Without waiting for their hands to touch his arm, he formed two hooks and pecked at the wrists of the two men. Ow! The two men didn't even have time to react. They felt pain in their wrists as if their bones were broken. But before the men could make another move, Yang Chung opened his arms again and hooked them by their necks. Then, he violently pulled them towards the center. Bang! The two men's heads collided, and they immediately fainted. "You guys should all come up. I'm too lazy to catch you one by one." Yang Chung continued to walk towards the tall man. His cold face revealed an inexplicable fanaticism. These people had really angered him. His blood that hadn't been burning for a long time showed signs of reigniting. The tall man finally realized that the problem wasn't simple. His expression was solemn, and his muscles were tense. At the same time, he signaled the others around him with his eyes. 5 or 6 people surrounded Yang Chung. These people had obviously practiced encirclement tactics. Moreover, they were trained in the military martial arts of the Special Forces. Therefore, their movements were agile and ruthless. Moreover, after entering combat mode, they were extremely focused and determined. People often said that there was strength in numbers. However, in the face of absolute power, everything seemed pale and powerless. Without waiting for the few people to surround and attack, Yang Chung used one hand to grab the neck of the tall man in front of him. "You're too naive." The tall man felt that Yang Chung was looking down on him. That was why he attacked so directly. He angrily turned around and sent a roundhouse kick straight at Yang Cheng's arm. Yang Chung indiscernibly sneered. His arm still didn't deviate in the slightest. While grabbing towards the tall man, his arm was fiercely struck by the leather shoe, but it didn't waver in the slightest and still accurately grabbed towards the tall man's neck. The tall man knew very well how strong his leg was. Even if it was a marble brick, it would have been broken by his kick. This man, is he made of iron? Yang Chung didn't give him any time to think. He jumped like lightning and directly grabbed the tall man's neck. He squeezed hard and resisted the urge to break the man's neck. He casually lifted the man up from the ground. It was as easy as lifting a little bird. The few people who wanted to attack suddenly saw this scene. They were so shocked that they couldn't speak. They thought that this ungrateful guy would have his arm broken by the captain's kick. Who knew that the captain's powerful roundhouse kick didn't have the slightest effect. The tall man was lifted from the ground. He was as light as a rag doll. He kept waving his arms and legs, trying to kick Yang Chung. However, Yang Chung only needed to use a little bit of force. The tall man couldn't breathe properly. His face was pale, and he was sweating profusely. He didn't even have the strength to resist. "I'll return what you just said to me. In my eyes, you're nothing." Chapter 82. After Yang Chung indifferently said that, he casually tossed the tall man's tall and sturdy body onto a Passat by the roadside. The thick steel plates of the German car made the tall man feel extremely uncomfortable. The violent impact was like a heavy hammer, causing him to spit out a mouthful of blood. "Captain!" The other men in suits saw that the tall man was easily defeated, and the other party was not injured at all. They were inexplicably shocked. They quickly ran over to check on the tall man's injuries, and then looked at Yang Chung in a dilemma, not knowing what to do. The tall man took a few deep breaths, and his eyes were filled with fear and unwillingness as he looked at Yang Chung not far away. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said with a trembling voice, "Go. Let's go first." The few men were relieved and quickly opened the car door and got in. They started the car and left the villa as if they were running for their lives. Yang Chung did not drive the car to chase after them. After all, Mother Wong was still at home, and these people were obviously not ordinary people. Unless it was to the point where he had no choice, Yang Chung did not want to cause a scene. After years of ups and downs, Yang Chung deeply understood that although he could do many things that were impossible in the eyes of others, The impact of it could hurt the people around him. Yang Chung did not want to see that happen, so he learned to endure. Of course, there was a limit to a person's patience. When he walked into the villa, Mother Wang was sitting on the floor, wiping her tears. Seeing Yang Chung enter the door, Mother Wang stood up and grabbed Yang Cheng's hand. "Young master, are you okay?" Looking at Mother Wang's anxious and teary eyes, Yang Chung felt a little warm in his heart. "Of course I'm okay. It's just that I made Mother Wang worried. I'm sorry." "Young master, don't say such things. It's obvious that those people's attitude is bad. Why can't they just talk it out? They're acting like they're the king of heaven. I'm angry just looking at them. Don't worry. If they come again, Mother Wang, don't worry about anything. Just call me directly. They won't dare to do anything," Yang Chung said firmly. Mother Wang sighed with a smile. "Actually, it's okay for me to suffer a little, but I'm worried about you, son-in-law." "Son-in-law, did you accidentally provoke some big shot? They look like they're from a government department." When our old madam was still alive, she said, "The people don't fight with the officials." "How can the people fight with the officials? If the son-in-law is really in trouble, you could talk to young miss about it. Young miss still knows some elders in the officialdom and may be of some help." Yang Chung shook his head. "I didn't provoke anyone. I don't know why they're here. Don't tell Ruashi about this. I'll deal with it myself." Mother Wang saw that Yang Chung didn't want to say more, so she went into the kitchen to prepare dinner. Life had to go on as usual. Yang Chung walked a few steps in the living room. He thought for a while and finally dialed a number. The phone was quickly picked up. Zhang, whose familiar rough voice came through. "Mr. Yang, it's rare for you to call me." "Ha!" Yang Chung wasn't in the mood to joke around. He said directly, "Zhang Hu, I need your help with something this time. I need some clever brothers to help me protect a place and a person in the dark." Zhang Hu suddenly paused on the other end of the phone. He said hesitantly, "Mr. Yang, Miss Qiangwei wants to talk to you." "Qiangwei? She's beside you?" Yang Chung was stunned. He immediately smiled bitterly. Originally, he deliberately avoided Qiangwei on this matter. That was why he looked for Zhang Hu. He didn't expect to bump into the muzzle of a gun. Qiangwei's voice still sounded lazy and charming. Even if Yang Chung couldn't see it, he could imagine Qiangwei revealing a victorious smile like a little girl who caught her lover's weakness. "Hubby, if you need someone, why don't you ask me directly? You want to ask Zhang Hu?" Rose's words went straight to the point, causing Yang Chun to be a loss for words. Feeling a little emotional, he said, "I'm just afraid that you'll be busy, Babe Rose. I heard that you've been playing tricks with the West Union Society these past few days, so I don't want to trouble you with small matters." "You can't say that. As long as it's hubby's matter, I'll take time no matter how busy I am. Tell me, what do you need someone to do?" Qiang Wei asked mischievously. Yang Chen knew that this woman was smart and couldn't hide anything from her. He said, "Recently, I've been in some trouble. Today, they came directly to the place I'm staying at. I was wondering if you could arrange a few quick-witted people to keep an eye on the surroundings of my house. Don't let anyone in the family get hurt. Of course, the most important thing is to be able to contact me in critical moments." "Oh, the place where hubby lives with the Empress? You didn't want to tell me before. Where is it?" Yang Chung thought that he couldn't just casually tell her, but there was no other way. Thinking that she would find out in the future, he generously said it. After listening, Qiang Wei giggled. "Those who can live in Dragon Garden are all nobles with status in Zhonghai. Hubby's words make me feel pressured as a mistress." "All right, don't be sarcastic with me. I'll let you meet in the future, but not now. I'm afraid I'll be chainsawed in the middle of the night," Yang Chung said helplessly. "I don't want to meet. It's so embarrassing." Qiang Wei flatly rejected. "I'll meet when I want to. This is a woman's matter. Men are not allowed to interfere." Yang Chung worriedly said, "Baby Qiang Wei, you won't use your underworld methods, will you?" Qiang Wei burst into laughter without restraint. She must have been trembling on the other end of the phone. "Hubby, you're so funny. How would I dare? At most, I'll fight for some space from the first branch as a concubine. I can't wait to please them. If I really dare to make a move, I'll divorce you." Yang Chung smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything more. After discussing with Qiang Wei about protecting Mother Wang, he promised to visit her at Rose in 2 days and hung up the phone. As for the hospital, Yang Chung wasn't worried. Not to mention whether these people knew about the relationship between Lin Ruoshi and him. Even if they knew, they probably wouldn't dare to mess around. After all, Lin Ruoshi was a well-known female entrepreneur and had connections with the government. She wasn't someone who could be touched easily. The next day, when it was almost noon, in Zhonghai's West Railway Station, the train's whistle rang loudly and an old train slowly entered the station. On the platform, the calm Yang Chung and Chun Bo, who was full of anticipation, formed a sharp contrast. Yang Chung had a cigarette in his mouth, and his eyes were half closed. He sat on a wooden chair and asked Chun Bo, "You're talking about this train, right?" "Yes, I definitely won't be wrong." Chun Bo was very excited. "This is the first time my sister has traveled so far. Our family is worried about her coming to Zhonghai. How would I dare to get it wrong?" "Your sister also studied in Sichuan province?" Chun Bo answered dejectedly. "My sister was originally admitted to a law university in Beijing, but she stayed in the province to take care of our parents. She got scholarships every year, and her grades are good." "Both of you are quite good at studying," Yang Chung said with a smile. "Unlike me, I've never been to school." Chun Bo asked doubtfully, "Yang Chung, didn't you graduate from Harvard University? What do you mean you've never been to school?" Yang Chung smiled embarrassedly and didn't explain. He couldn't possibly say that the female principal forced the diploma on him to please him. If she really had that kind of diploma, he could have taken a whole train with her. Not long after, the doors of the carriages opened, and the passengers hurriedly got off the carriages with bags of luggage. They then looked around and began to walk out of the train station. Chun Bo stretched his neck and kept searching for his sister's figure. He was extremely anxious. When most of the people had left, he revealed a relieved smile and said, "She's finally here, brother." A clear and melodious voice with a hint of heartfelt joy came from a carriage not far away. Yang Chen stood up and turned his head to look. He saw a girl with messy hair and a ponytail running towards him. She was wearing a thin yellow shirt and loose brown linen pants. She was carrying an old cloth travel bag. When he got closer, he noticed that the girl's figure was skinny, similar to Chun Bo. They both had fair skin and exquisite features. Because of the hot weather, the girl's small face was covered in fine beads of sweat. She revealed an innocent smile and gave off a pure and natural aura that city girls did not have, causing people's eyes to light up. Chun Bo hugged his sister passionately and then asked about everything that had happened on the road and at home. He talked for more than half an hour before he stopped. Suddenly realizing that Yang Chung was still around, Chun Bo awkwardly smiled. "I'm sorry, I was too excited. I haven't seen my sister for over a year. You two look so similar. Are you twins?" Yang Chung felt that if Chun Bo was a girl, they would definitely be a charming pair. Chun Bo dotingly caressed his sister's face and proudly said, "That's what my relatives and friends say. I was born a few years earlier, but we're even better than twins." "Big brother. Who's this big brother?" The girl looked at Yang Chung timidly and carefully asked. Chun Bo immediately introduced, "This is my friend and colleague, Yang Chung, Big Brother Yang." "Nice to meet you, Big Brother Yang. I'm Chen Rong." Chen Rong's face was blushing. "Don't be nervous. I'll be your chauffeur today. I'm your brother's friend, not your boss. Since you're so respectful, I won't give you any red packets, nor will I raise your brother's salary." Yang Chung smiled. Chen Rong giggled. "I'm already grateful that Big Brother Yang came to pick me up." Yang Cheng's humorous attitude also made the girl relax. The three of them chatted and laughed as they slowly walked out of the station. After walking for a short distance, Yang Chun suddenly saw a familiar figure standing on the platform in the distance. She wore a blue dress, had an elegant posture, and stood out from the crowd. It was his superior, Mo Chinny. Mo Chinny didn't see Yang Chung and the others at all. It was as if she was waiting for someone with a heavy heart. Since he still had to send the Chun siblings off, Yang Chung didn't plan to greet them. He only took a glance and didn't think too much about it. When he got into the car, Chun Rong timidly looked around. She was a little curious, but she didn't dare to touch anything. But after a while, Chun Rong didn't have the energy to pay attention to these new things. Sitting on a hard seat on a train was tiring, and it was such a long journey. Chen Rong felt her eyelids fighting, and fell asleep in the back seat within a few minutes. When Yang Cheng saw this scene from the rearview mirror, he asked Chunbo, "What kind of job does your sister intend to find in Zhonghai?" Chunbo lovingly looked at the sleeping Chun Rong and bitterly smiled. "Take your time. I'm also looking for a job. There are fewer and fewer jobs these days that can earn money without a diploma. I don't intend to let little Rong go to a place like mine. I want to find a safe and clean place for her." After a brief pondering, Yang Cheng said, "I have a place to recommend to your sister. The salary might not be high, but it's definitely safe. Are you willing to consider it?" Chapter 83. The place that Yang Cheng recommended to Chunbo was Xiangwei's Rose Bar. This bar had always been a mid-tier bar. It wasn't that Xiangwei didn't want to open a big bar. It was just that the size of this bar was left behind by Xiangwei's mother. According to her, maintaining this bar was far more meaningful than using it as a business. After dropping Chun Rong's luggage at Chunbo's apartment, the three of them had a simple meal at a small restaurant before rushing to Rose Bar. The bar was very quiet during the day. Other than the waiters, there weren't any customers at all. It was a suitable place for Yang Cheng to bring the siblings in. After Chunbo realized that it was a bar, he asked worriedly, "Yang Cheng, this street is quite chaotic at night. I'm a little worried. I've thought about this for you. I'm very familiar with the boss here. I can definitely get someone to send Xiao Rong back at night." Chunbo didn't ask any more questions. After entering the bar, he looked around and couldn't help but nod his head when he saw that the decorations in the bar were quite elegant. A bar like this seemed to be quite formal. Xiao Zhao, who was wearing a waiter's attire at the bar counter, was immediately energized when he saw Yang Cheng enter. He grinned and said, "Brother Yang, why are you here during the day? You even brought a friend?" Yang Cheng greeted a few of the waiters in the bar and said, "Is Xiangwei here? I'm here to recommend an employee to her." The boss just woke up from his afternoon nap. "I'll go call him now," Xiao Zhao said happily and ran inside. Xiangwei's innermost residence was not open to the public. Therefore, Yang Cheng chose to wait outside with the Chun siblings for Xiangwei to come out. Not long after, Rose, who was wearing a moon-white dress, walked out with light steps. Her smooth, oval face without any makeup appeared charming and flawless in the dim light. Her graceful figure was set off by her mature temperament, making her look even more beautiful. Chunbo and Chunrong stared blankly at Xiangwei, who was walking over with a smile. They never thought that the owner of this bar would be such a beautiful young lady. "Yang Cheng, who are you recommending?" Xiangwei intelligently called Yang Cheng by his name since there were outsiders around. She was dignified and modest. Yang Cheng gestured to Chunrong. "This is my friend and his sister. They just came from Chuan province. Something happened at home, so they dropped out from university and came to Zhonghai to work to pay off their debts. I think it's a good idea to come to your place. I can be more at ease with someone like you." Rose quickly understood Yang Chen's intention and started to carefully examine Chunrong. When Chunrong saw Rose, who was faintly exuding the aura of a goddess, smiling at her, she couldn't help but blush and lower her head, not daring to look directly into Rose's eyes. "What's your name?" Rose bent her body and asked warmly, just like an older sister next door asking her younger sister. "Chunrong." Chunrong pursed her lips and answered. Rose chuckled. "Don't be nervous. Listen to me. Although you're recommended by Yang Chun, I can only let you start from the most basic tasks, such as serving dishes and cleaning. Doing these tasks will be very tiring and dirty. If the customers lose their temper, you might even get scolded. Are you willing?" "I'm willing. I've been taking care of my parents at home. I've done these jobs before. I've even worked at some fast food restaurants," Chunrong said. Xiangwei smiled meaningfully. She suddenly reached out and touched Chunrong's cheek. "Then you can work here from now on. I'll ask little Zhao and the others to teach you. If you encounter any difficulties, tell me. Don't be shy. I won't let my employees be bullied." "Okay." Chunrong smiled innocently with tears in her eyes. After little Zhao brought Chunrong to sign the contract, Chunbo, who didn't dare to speak in front of Xiangwei, suddenly said, "Thank you. I know that Yang Cheng is a good person. You're Yang Cheng's friend, so I believe in you. I'll leave my sister in your care." He bowed. Xiangwei held on to him, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Your sister is as pure as the spring water in the mountains. It's hard to come by in today's society. Truth be told, I've been lacking a good girl to be my assistant. If your sister is willing, I would like to keep her by my side and teach her some things. I'm just afraid that your brother will object." Hearing this, Yang Cheng was shocked. He looked at Xiang Wei in surprise. He didn't expect that Xiang Wei would want to take him in as a disciple. No wonder she looked at Chen Rong with such a complicated gaze. But when he thought about the pure and kind Chen Rong being taught by a mafia boss, Yang Cheng wanted to laugh. Chen Bo didn't know that Xiang Wei was the queen of Zhonghai's underworld. He thought that Xiang Wei was talking about bringing Chen Rong along for business. How could he not be willing? He quickly smiled and said, "As long as little Rong is willing, as her brother, I'll follow her. Boss Xiang Wei won't harm us. I'm assured." "You trust Yang Cheng and me so much?" Xiang Wei asked with a weird smile. Chen Bo nodded seriously. "I trust him. I'm poor and useless, but Yang Cheng still cares about me and helps me. He doesn't look down on me like others. If I don't trust him, then I'm really worse than a pig or a dog." Boss Xiang Wei is Yang Cheng's friend. I believe in the saying, when talking and laughing, there are great scholars. Since Yang Cheng is a good person, then Boss Xiang Wei is naturally trustworthy. Xiang Wei couldn't help but laugh. "You're much more interesting than Yang Cheng. You even have a way with words. Since you said that, I'll take it that you've agreed to take Shenrong with me. Don't say that I made decisions on my own in the future." Chenbo blushed and smiled. I won't. Please don't mind me, Boss Xiang Wei. Other than our company's president, you're the prettiest woman I've ever seen. How could someone like you do something that would let down small people like us?" "Ha! Your company's president?" Xiang Wei's beautiful eyes flickered. She looked at Yang Cheng meaningfully. "Then she must be as beautiful as a fairy?" Yang Cheng's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He didn't dare to look at Xiang Wei. Chenbo didn't know that much. He said with respect, "Yes, I was also stunned the first time I saw her. It's just like how I was when I saw Boss Xiang Wei today. But everyone in our company respects her. Many people worship her as an idol." Xiang Wei nodded with a faint smile. After chatting with Chenbo for a while, she said to Yang Cheng, "Yang Cheng, I have something to tell you in private. Do you have time to come tonight?" Yang Cheng clearly saw Xiang Wei's expression that said, "If you don't come, you're dead." He smiled stiffly. "If I have time, I'll definitely come." Ha! After dealing with Chun Rong's work matters, Yang Chun brought the Chun siblings who were in a good mood back to their apartment. Chun Bo was busy taking care of Chun Rong's residence, so he didn't go to work. Yang Cheng had nothing to do. Xiang Wei's appointment was at night. She went to the hospital to see Lin Ruoxi. She was afraid of bumping into other people. Li Jingjing must be teaching. After thinking about it, it seemed like the only option was to go back to the company to play games. But just as he was about to go back to Yulei International, his phone rang. The caller made Yang Cheng confused at first. Then he frowned and remembered who it was. It was Tang Tang. After picking up the phone, Tang Tang immediately said straightforwardly, "Uncle, where are you?" "What's the matter?" Yang Cheng felt it was better to clear things up first. This girl was troublesome. Tang Tang said straightforwardly, "I finished my exams today. I have nothing to do after school, so I decided to treat you to a meal. You promised me last time. You can't refuse." Yang Cheng remembered this and rubbed his stomach. "I'm not hungry now. Let's go later." "No, Uncle, you're a man. How can you be so stingy? Do I have to treat you to a meal to accompany me? I'm bored alone on the streets. Come and play with me. We'll go eat in 2 hours." Tang Tang begged. When a girl acted like a spoiled child, Yang Cheng was in a difficult position. He hesitantly suggested, "You should go home. Don't your parents care about you?" "Oomph. They don't have time to care about a child who no one loves. They're so busy every day. What about your classmates? You're all little brats, so childish." "Uncle, come on." Tang Tang seemed to have grasped Yang Chen's weakness. Since the hard way didn't work, she used the soft way. Yang Cheng was depressed. What a pitiful child. She didn't have her parents' love. Was she different from him when he was young? Although he had a Porsche to drive, his young heart seemed to be really lonely. "Okay, where are you? I'll go pick you up." Yang Cheng had nothing to do. It wouldn't hurt to accompany this girl. Although nothing good happened when they met. I'm at the intersection of 3rd Street and 14th Street. I'm at the crossroad. Uncle, come quickly. I'm wearing a pink miniskirt. Giggling, Tang Tang hung up the phone. Yang Chung sighed helplessly. There's nothing to see even if this little girl is naked. As he muttered to himself, he stepped harder on the gas pedal. In less than a quarter of an hour, Yang Chun saw Tang Tang, who was dressed in cute pink attire at the corner of the street. The young lady wore a sun hat and had a pure and lovely smile on her face. It was hard to imagine that the delinquent girl he met at night would have such an adorable appearance. After Tang Tang got in the car, Yang Chung couldn't help but praise, "Your outfit is so good. It's much prettier than your previous outfit." Tang Tang pouted with dissatisfaction. "That's a trend. But uncle, I don't think you understand. At most, I'll pretend to be a pure little girl in front of you in the future. There's a generation gap with you." Yang Chung muttered and asked, "Where are you going?" "Zhonghai Cinema. To watch a movie." Tang Tang blurted out. "You already have plans?" Yang Chung felt that he had fallen into a trap. "You're not thinking of ways to play with me again, are you?" Tang Tang gritted her white teeth and angrily took out 2 papers from her white LV bag. "These are movie tickets given by the school. It's a patriotic movie. I don't think I should waste it. Since I have nothing to do, I'll go watch it." "Uncle, do you think I'm harming you? This movie is good." Yang Chung saw the picture of the national soldiers printed on the movie tickets. He smiled and said, "I like watching movies about the history of Huaxia." "Why?" Tang Tang asked doubtfully. "Because I don't know these stories." Yang Chung said matter-of-factly, "Only by understanding the history of your country can you better love your country. Your school is doing the right thing." Tang Tang pouted. "It's all a cliché. Besides, everyone has 2 tickets, but I'm the only lonely child in the whole class, and I'm watching it with a wretched uncle. At most, we'll sit separately when we get in. You watch your movie, and I'll watch mine." Yang Chung said indifferently while driving. "No." Tang Tang suddenly blushed and rubbed her hand shyly. Her appearance revealed a little charm that didn't match her age. She whispered, "This is the first time I'm going to watch a movie with a guy alone. How can we sit separately?" Yang Cheng's legs suddenly twitched, and he almost hit the car in front of him. Chapter 84. Along the way to the entrance of the cinema, Tang Tang hugged Yang Cheng's arm as soon as she got out of the car. She clung to him tightly, looking like a happy little woman. "What are you doing?" "Pretending to be your girlfriend. It's more pleasing to the eye if a man and a woman go in together. Otherwise, it will be awkward," Tang Tang said without hiding it. Yang Chung touched his head. "You could be my sister. Why are you pretending to be a woman? How am I small?" Tang Tang waved her little fist angrily. "Look at my chest." As she spoke, Tang Tang actually reached for her neckline. The round-neck cotton short-sleeved shirt was a bit tight. Tang Tang grabbed the neckline with one hand and wanted to pull it open. "What are you doing?" Yang Chung quickly pressed Tang Tang's hand. "There are so many people on the street. Why are you pulling open your neckline?" "I'm showing you my cleavage," Tang Tang said proudly. "Although I'm not a C yet, it will grow in 2 years. I will at least reach D. It's not fair for you to compare me with those Annies who have given birth. If you want to compare, then compare with the girls on the street who have the same high school as me. Let's see who is bigger than me." Yang Cheng's face was full of black lines. The delinquent girl suddenly turned into a Sunder girl. It was a bit unbearable. He coughed a few times and said, "Don't look down on women who have given birth. I have made great contributions to the reproduction of mankind. It's all because of you men. Why are you pretending to be a saint?" Tang Tang pouted. "Stop." Yang Chung felt that it was not right to continue the conversation. "Let's watch the movie." There was no way to turn this girl into his younger sister. After dragging Tang Tang, who was like a burden, into the cinema, Yang Chung got over it. Looking at the young girls around him, there were even some fat middle-aged men who came to watch a movie together. He and Tang Tang seemed to be a good match. Tang Tang still had the temperament of a child. She bought a large bucket of popcorn and a glass of Coke and orange juice for Yang Chung and herself before entering the theater. The screening process of the movie was rather long. On the screen, there were scenes of the People's Army fighting bravely against the enemy, killing people without any regard for their own lives. Yang Chung could not help but ask, why does this film only show them killing people? There's no historical background at all? What do you think it is? This kind of patriotic movie is always like that. It tells us how hard it was to build this country and how many people died. If you want to know anything else, go read the history books. But this is too fake. How can a person still stand and talk so much after being hit by a swarm of bullets? Yang Chung didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Tang Ting looked at him as if he was an idiot. Uncle, have you never seen such a film before? I came back from abroad more than half a year ago. I really haven't seen it, Yang Chung said truthfully. Tang Ting looked as if she had discovered a new continent. Really? Uncle, are you still a turtle? I couldn't tell. I thought you were a nouveau riche from a small mountain village. Yang Chung didn't care. Whatever. Although I'm not a nouveau riche, people who call others nouveau riche are usually jealous of the nouveau riche. How can you be a nouveau riche without money? Don't you think so? Your words are flowery, but make sense. By the time they finished watching the movie, Tang Ting had already fallen asleep on Yang Cheng's shoulder. Yang Chung had no choice but to push Tang Ting. Only then did she wake up in a daze. She wiped the drool from the corner of her mouth and smiled sweetly. Actually, this girl is quite cute sometimes, Yang Chung thought to himself. When they walked out of the theater, Tang Ting, who had a stomach full of drinks, hurried to the bathroom. After dawdling for more than 10 minutes, she ran out with an embarrassed smile. Yang Chung could only smile bitterly. When the two walked out of the theater, the neon lights on the street were already lit up. Under the dazzling lights, pedestrians hurried to and fro. The city's nightlife was about to begin. The temperature outside was a little cold, and the whooshing wind made Tang Ting shiver uncontrollably. She grabbed onto Yang Chen's sleeves. Uncle, let's go eat hot pot. The weather today is really cold. Yang Chen also felt the arrival of autumn and nodded in agreement. At this moment, suddenly 2 men in suits ran up from the side of the theater and bowed to Tang Ting. Miss, we finally found you. Please go back with us. One of the men said respectfully. Tang Ting frowned. Are you sent by my father? Yes. The master is already waiting for you. Please don't make it difficult for us. Tang Ting looked at Yang Chung awkwardly. Uncle, it's okay. I'll send you off. I'll go home for dinner later. Yang Chung said to the 2 men, lead the way. The 2 men looked at each other and made an inviting gesture. Tang Ting curiously looked at Yang Chung and then nodded happily. The 2 men walked one in front and one behind. Tang Ting hugged Yang Chen's arm and followed them into an alley behind the theater. The light in the cold alley was currently dim, and a cold wind blew into the alley, causing Tang Ting to be unable to hold back her anger as she said, How are you guys leading the way? Why are you walking in an alley? The man in front suddenly stopped and turned around with a blank expression. His face looked particularly pale in the dark alley. A pair of dull eyes stared at the 2 of them. The man behind them also stopped in his tracks and stared at the 2 of them. The alley was very deep. At this moment, there was no other person around. It seemed empty and quiet. Tang Ting was stunned. She looked confused. She didn't understand what was going on. Tang Ting, Yang Chung asked casually, do you know these 2 people? I don't know, Tang Ting replied, but there are many people like this around my dad, so it's normal not to know them. Maybe they are new. Yang Chung said with a smile, then you go back with them. Your brain isn't like yours. What else can I do? Tang Ting pouted and reprimanded the 2 men. Why did you stop? Go. As soon as the voice fell, the 2 men standing in place suddenly exerted their strength. Their bodies were like arrows that were shot from the bow, and they stabbed at Yang Chung. Yang Chung calmly took a step to the side. His toes touched the ground, and his body rose into the air. He used the wall of the alley as a leverage and easily flipped in the air to avoid the 2 men's encirclement from the front and back. But the attack didn't stop. 2 flat black objects flashing with a cold light spun rapidly toward Yang Cheng's body. Yang Cheng's body slightly twisted in midair, and the 2 hidden weapons brushed past him. But before he landed, the 2 men exerted their strength again. 2 cold daggers suddenly appeared in their hands, and they abruptly stabbed at Yang Cheng's ribs. Yang Cheng's feet kicked up in a state that defied gravity, and the 2 daggers were kicked away. The 2 men turned around at the same time and shot out 4 dart-like objects at lightning speed. Yang Cheng didn't dare to relax. He was already prepared for it. He leaped into the air and leveled his body to avoid the attacks of the 2 men. Shuriken. After Yang Cheng landed, he laughed strangely and said, looking at the strength and technique, it's already at the Jianan level. Which organization are you from? The 2 men had already taken off their outer shells. At this moment, their bodies were wrapped in black clothes with short blades hanging from their waists. Only a pair of sharp eyes were exposed, and they stared at Yang Cheng. Tang Tang was so frightened by the sudden turn of events that her face turned pale. She hurriedly ran to Yang Chen's back and hugged Yang Chen's back as she shivered. Who are they? Yang Cheng didn't turn his head and said, don't be afraid. They can't hurt you. Of course I'm not afraid. From behind, Tong Tong's voice suddenly dropped in temperature. A gloomy yet charming and bewitching voice rang out. Pluto, you should worry about yourself. Yang Cheng moved quickly and took 3 steps back. He looked at Tang Tang and narrowed his eyes. He saw that Tang Tang, who was originally scared and lost, suddenly became coquettish. Her expression was full of charm, and her eyes were as cold as a poisonous snake's tongue. Oh, it's hard to guard against. Yang Cheng couldn't help but say a line he heard from a skit. He smiled bitterly and said, what did you do to me? Tang Tang giggled and said, nothing. It's just a special and unique poison. After it touches the human skin, it will quickly spread to the whole body. It can make the body lose the ability to sense nerves within 5 minutes. It is equivalent to saying, temporarily become a cripple. As soon as Tang Tang finished speaking, Yang Cheng felt his whole body go limp. Slowly, his legs couldn't stand, and he sat on the ground. Ha ha. The woman couldn't help but laugh. It seems that the leader's suggestion is unnecessary. Pluto doesn't live up to his name and isn't that difficult to deal with. Yang Chen raised his head and weakly smiled. Your disguise and poison techniques are indeed brilliant. You must have surpassed the level of a Jonin and reached the level of a Genie. So what? The fake Tang Tang walked to Yang Cheng and squatted down. She pointed at Yang Cheng's chin and said in a soft voice, Your Majesty Pluto, isn't it a bit late for you to see through my identity? Yang Cheng shook his head. It's not late. Among the Japanese ninjas, the only one who has reached the level of Jinin and is good at disguise and poison is the #1 beauty among the ninjas, Hanya. It's my honor that Your Majesty Pluto knows this little girl. When Hanya saw that her identity was recognized, she wasn't worried at all. She giggled and generously took off her clothes, revealing a tight black and purple leather ninja suit. Hanya's figure was extremely hot. The ninja suit couldn't seem to cover her full breasts. They were so heavy that they seemed like they would come out at any time. Her waist was slim and her buttocks were plump. Her snow-white thighs were exposed to the air. Her bright and beautiful face was full of lust. One of the 3 great ninjas of Yamata sect is indeed powerful. Yang Cheng greedily looked at the mature female ninja in front of him. I don't know if Tengu and Tanuki have come to Huaxia. I've been fascinated by them for a long time. Henya secretly despised him. He was just a man who was mesmerized by a woman. She sneered, Pluto really has the leisure to care about how many people from our Yamata sect came. We aren't here to chat with you today. Your Majesty Pluto, please don't beat around the bush. Yang Cheng blankly said, Then what are you here for? The smile on Hanya's face disappeared instantly. Her voice was as cold as ice. Godstone. We want Godstone. Chapter 85. What Godstone? Yang Cheng frowned with a confused expression, looking innocent and pitiful. Hanya crossed her arms in front of her chest, squeezing her voluptuous curves to the point that they were extremely eye-catching. Her soft body bent down and slightly opened up, releasing a sweet fragrance. There's no need to act in front of me, Hanya said expressionlessly. A few years ago, you almost destroyed Zero single-handedly. Although it seems that your strength isn't as strong as the rumors say, you might have borrowed some other power back then. However, the Godstone in Zero's possession disappeared without a trace after that destruction. All the forces have gone to the ruins of Zero to search for it, but to no avail. Anyone with a brain would know that the Godstone is under your control and only you understand the value of the Godstone the most. Hanya saw that Yang Chung still had no reaction, and snorted, "If you had stayed in your own kingdom, perhaps we might have been a little afraid. But since you came back to Huaxia for no reason and dish your subordinates, then don't blame us for taking action. Even if we don't make a move, someone else will sooner or later. It's just that everyone is afraid of you, including the seemingly selfless and loyal people of Yellow Flame, Iron Brigade from Huaxia. They just don't have the foresight of our leader. Pluto, don't doubt that we can send you into the holy fire and burn you to ashes. In our eyes, there's only the Emperor of Japan in this world." Yang Chung smacked his lips and said, "Maybe you don't know this, but Huaxia is no longer a feudal country. If you mention anything about the Emperor, someone will come and kill you." "Who?" Hanya raised her eyebrows and smiled. "Do you think there's anyone who can save you?" Before he could finish his sentence, one of the two Jonin ninjas standing at the side suddenly fell backward and collapsed. "Who is it?" Hanya immediately entered battle mode and calmly listened to her surroundings. The remaining Jonin did not lose his composure because of the fall of his comrade. Two diamond-shaped broken blades flashed in his hands as he vigilantly observed the situation around him. At this moment, from the space above the alley, a black figure jumped back and forth on several range shields like a graceful swallow. Her graceful movements were like a pleasing gymnastics performance. "Be careful." Seeing that something was wrong, Hanya moved her feet. Just as she finished reminding him, it was already too late. So, after an almost inaudible sonic boom, the other Jounin was unable to dodge in time. A small hole suddenly appeared on his head, and blood gushed out. After the Jonin collapsed in disbelief, only Hanya was left in the alley. Hanya looked at the object that was shot down from the ground. It was actually a small hidden weapon that looked like a thumbtack. Raising her head with a serious expression, she looked at the person who had already landed on the ground and said, "Flower Rain of the Yellow Flame, Iron Brigade?" The person who jumped down from the sky was a tall woman. She wore a slightly tight-fitting black t-shirt and jeans, which outlined her full but not exaggerated figure. Her shoulder-length hair lightly brushed against the night wind, and her indifferent face was like a black rose that bloomed in the night. "This is not a place where you should be." Flower Rain's voice was a little ethereal, but the emotions contained in it were very clear. She was very disgusted with the woman in front of her. Hanya calmed herself down and chuckled. "I didn't expect Pluto to have already formed a partnership with the Yellow Flame, Iron Brigade. He actually sent one of the group of 8, Flower Rain, to protect me. If this news were to spread, I wonder what those old fellows from other countries who maintain peace on the surface would think. All right, could it be that the Godstone has already been handed over to Huaxia? No wonder you can only reach the level of a Genin and can't advance any further. Seems like your aptitude is limited." Yang Chung suddenly stood up from the ground and patted the dust on his pants. With a playful smile, he said, "If I needed to rely on her protection, then I would have died more than 10 years ago." "How did you—" Hanya was finally moved. Her expression was filled with disbelief. "How did you stand up?" "I've always been able to stand up. I was just playing with you just now." Yang Chung looked at the silent Flower Rain on the other side and said, "Moreover, if I didn't put on this show, I don't know when this woman would be willing to come out. I don't want to always be followed by others." Hanya was so angry that her face turned red. "You knew I was fake from the start." "I only suspected at first because when you came out of the toilet, there was no longer the yellow color left by the orange juice on your tongue. Of course, you can think that my observation skills are a little abnormal, but I actually just happened to see it." Yang Chung continued, "After that, you actually followed 2 unfamiliar men. Moreover, from the eyes of these 2 men, I saw pure respect for you. There was no pity or concern. I can only say that your acting skills are not good enough. So you've always been using me." Hanya felt extremely humiliated. Her best disguise was actually seen through by this lecherous man. "Wrong. It was your Yamada sect that came to find trouble with me. I didn't invite you. Am I right, Miss Flower Rain?" Yang Chung winked at Flower Rain. This young and beautiful woman was actually one of the members of Group of 8, which was even more mysterious than the dragon group in the Yellow Flame Iron Brigade. While it was unimaginable, Yang Chung felt that this woman looked very familiar. Flower Rain didn't reply to him. Instead, she asked, "You weren't poisoned?" Yang Chung shook his head. "I was poisoned. However, the poison wasn't strong enough to poison me." Hanya looked at Yang Chung as if she was looking at a monster. She said in disbelief, "Impossible. This kind of poison can even paralyze an elephant." You monster." Yang Chung grinned. "Bingo. You guessed it right. Unfortunately, I can't give you bonus points. You better pay attention to yourself." Flower Rain raised her hand. In her white palm, there was a pocket-sized silver pistol. Hanya was very clear that this kind of pistol couldn't shoot bullets. However, it could shoot nail-like hidden weapons that weren't inferior to bullets. This was a common method in the world of assassins. However, there were rumors that Flower Rain of Group of 8 originated from the ancient Tang sect in Huaxia, because she inherited the most mysterious technique of sky full of flower rain. She was codenamed Flower Rain. Other than using a gun, her hidden weapons could be shot from any part of her body. Originally, Hanya, who was one of the 3 great Jinnins of Yamada's sect, wasn't particularly afraid of Flower Rain. She had the strength to fight against her. However, there was a mysterious and unfathomable sinister man standing behind her. Hanya knew that she couldn't fight against him. "You want to escape? Hurry up and escape." Yangqing saw through Hanya's intention and urged her. Hanya glared at him hatefully. Suddenly, her body became blurry on the spot. In the end, she seemed to have turned into a cloud of smoke and was about to disappear from the spot. Flower Rain knitted her beautiful eyebrows. A glint flashed in her eyes. The pocket-sized pistol in her hand was transferred to her left hand. Her body turned to the left, and 2 nail-like hidden weapons shot out instantly. Swoosh, swoosh. The 2 hidden weapons streaked across the air and sank into the cement wall. A broken, purplish-red ribbon fell from midair. Hanya's figure had completely disappeared from the alley. Escape technique. Flower Rain unwillingly kept her gun and questioned Yang Chung. "If you had the ability to make her stay, why didn't you do it?" Yang Chung shrugged. "If I did it, wouldn't it mean that I'm on your side? You are Huaxia's person." Flower Rain's pretty face was as cold as frost. "She is the country's enemy. If I caught her, I would attract more enemies." Yang Chung said, "When she appears again in the future, I will naturally make my move. However, it definitely can't be now." Spineless man. Flower Rain looked at Yang Chung with disdain and turned to leave. Yang Chung wasn't angry. He just thought of something else and quickly called out, "Don't leave first. You look very similar to a female police officer I know. Are you 2 sisters?" To be honest, he really didn't care about Hanya. However, Flower Rain in front of him was too similar to Choi Yun. Flower Rain stopped in her tracks. Without turning her head, she said in a slow tone, "She is my sister, so that's why." Yang Chung smiled and nodded. They were actually a pair of beautiful sisters. He then asked, "How about Tang Tang? Did you save her?" "She is already safe. However, her clothes were taken off. After I informed her family's bodyguards, they put on some clothes for her. She should have been picked up by now." Yang Chung nodded with satisfaction. "You're quite good at doing things. It seems like there's nothing bad about having you around. My mission has failed. I won't be following you anymore. The body left here will be taken care of by the commissioner. You should leave now." Flower Rain finished speaking and strode out of the alley. Chapter 86. In the end, only Yang Chung was left on the street. Tong Tong's treat ended in a dramatic way. However, the girl was already pitiful enough. She was impersonated and stripped naked when she went to the toilet. Yang Chung didn't expect her to treat him to a meal soon. After thinking about it, there was no place to eat. Seeing that it was getting late, he drove to the Rose Bar. It was as if nothing had happened just now. When he arrived at the Rose Bar, there were already a lot of people drinking and chatting. Recently, the bar had changed its atmosphere. Mozart's violin melody was playing in the hall. There weren't many customers, but the atmosphere was much better than those messy bars. To Yang Cheng's surprise, Chen Rong, who was wearing a waiter's uniform, was already at work. After the girl, who was as pure as a lily, took a bath. She put on a black and white uniform. Her original dirty and tired look was gone, making her look youthful and bright. Especially her pretty face, which was as white as snow and as tender as a flower. Seeing Yang Cheng come in, Chun Rong shyly said, "Brother Yang." Yang Cheng knew that Chun Rong wasn't used to it, so he joked, "If Xiao Zhao and the others bully you, tell me. I will help you beat them up." When Xiao Zhao and the others heard this, they cried out, "Brother Yang, how would we dare?" She was recommended by Brother Yang, and the boss personally took care of her. "We can't wait to curry favor with Xiao Rong. How we dare to bully her?" Chun Rong smiled sweetly and said, "Thank you." Then she ran backstage to help. Looking at Chun Rong's back, Yang Cheng also smiled in relief. Then he walked into the corridor behind the bar. He didn't know what Xiang Wei wanted to say to him, but at least she should let him eat first. Walking into the huge bedroom filled with Xiang Wei's charming body fragrance, he didn't see her. Yang Cheng, with his sensitive ears, quickly noticed that there was the sound of a shower coming from the bathroom on the side of the room. Is she taking a shower? Yang Cheng felt that he should ask carefully if he needed any help, such as wiping a certain part of his body, or if he needed a massage in the water. Even if he needed an audience to watch him bathe, it would be good. In short, Yang Cheng felt that he had many reasons to go in and watch Xiang Wei bathe. She gently pushed open the glass door. It was misty inside, and the mirror that was stained with water vapor refracted a soft light, making the whole bathroom look ambiguous and clean. Just as Yang Cheng was about to approach the shower room and give Xiang Wei an irresistible intimacy, Yang Cheng realized that something was wrong. Although water was splashing in the frosted glass shower, Xiang Wei's enchanting figure was nowhere to be seen. I was fooled. Yang Cheng suddenly turned his head, and sure enough, he saw Xiang Wei with a mischievous smile standing at the door of the French window on the opposite side. Her proud expression was like that of a juggler who had successfully tricked a monkey. This woman is becoming less and less cute, Yang Cheng thought angrily, but he maintained a calm expression on his face. After opening the door of the shower room, he turned off the faucet inside and said, "Xiang Wei, darling, I think it's better to turn off the faucet if you're not bathing. Saving water and electricity is a good habit." Xiang Wei finally couldn't help but giggle. She swayed back and forth for a while before she barely held back her laughter and said, "I've finally won this time. It seems that the best way to deal with you is to use the method of teasing a pervert. I've already said that I'm concerned about the problem of saving water." Yang Cheng wouldn't admit it even if he was beaten to death. He sat on the big bed and lay down with his head raised. He decided to change the topic and said, "I haven't eaten yet." Xiang Wei didn't expose him. She touched her chin and thought for a while, then said, "Do you want to try my cooking? You know how to cook?" Yang Cheng was a little skeptical. A mafia boss cooking? Xiang Wei rolled her eyes at him and walked to the front of a white wall in the room. She pushed it a little, and the wall turned out to be a well-concealed wooden door. After the wooden door opened, a 7 or 8 square meter kitchen appeared inside. It was just like an exquisite kitchen of a small family. Yang Cheng opened his mouth and said, "How come I didn't know there was such a place?" Xiang Wei looked at him with hidden bitterness. "Every time you come, you only do bad things to me. Why would you care about my life?" Yang Cheng, who was embarrassed by her words, smiled awkwardly. He had picked this delicate and beautiful flower, but he really didn't take good care of it. Xiang Wei stopped there and cleverly asked, "Dear, what do you want to eat? Anything is fine. Just fill your stomach." Yang Cheng really didn't have any special requirements. Xiang Wei's cooking was unexpectedly good. When Yang Cheng got a plate of beef fried rice with coriander, he immediately ate it. The considerate Xiang Wei even brought up a bowl of pickled vegetable and egg drop soup. Although this combination was simple, it was very suitable for people like Yang Cheng who were born to do hard work. After eating, Xiang Wei took out a wet napkin and carefully wiped his mouth. She was like a well-behaved wife serving her husband. That focused look almost made Yang Cheng's body go limp. Then, Xiang Wei cleaned up the dishes and went to the kitchen to wash them. Yang Cheng turned on the television to watch the news. It was as if they were a normal couple at home after work. The two of them tacitly didn't say anything. After everything was done, Xiang Wei closed the kitchen door. It was as if the meal never happened. Slowly, Xiang Wei walked to Yang Cheng's side and sat down. Her seductive body in translucent silk pajamas naturally leaned into Yang Cheng's arms. She moved her body to find a comfortable position and quietly accompanied Yang Cheng to watch the news. "Thank you." After a while, Xiang Wei murmured softly. "Thank you for what?" Yang Cheng asked. "I like it just now. I can cook for you. I like to sit on the side and watch you finish the food I cook. When I clean up the dishes, you sit not far from me and watch TV. I can feel you by my side. It's not like I'm the only one in the house." Yang Cheng lovingly touched Xiang Wei's face. "I like it too. It will be better if you can cook more. I really hope it can be like this every day in the future. Although it's impossible, I will try my best to make it possible." Yang Cheng said, "I rarely make promises to women. You have to believe me. Why is it that after you accepted me, the way you talk is different from before?" Xiang Wei looked at Yang Cheng with misty eyes. "You never asked me to believe you before because you didn't allow me to not believe you. Are you afraid of me? Afraid of losing me?" Yang Cheng shook his head slightly and held Xiang Wei's white and soft hand. "There are no men who are afraid of women in this world. There are only men who respect their women. But the men under me are afraid of me." Xiang Wei looked at Yang Cheng. "Because they are not your men. You are my woman," Yang Cheng said. Xiang Wei smiled sweetly. "This is you." Yang Cheng lovingly pinched the woman's nose. "All right, you heard what you wanted to hear. Next, you should tell me what you want to say. I don't believe that you specially called me here today just to listen to my sweet words. You didn't even give me time to think about it." "What a killjoy," Rose said unwillingly, but she still sat up and said seriously, "My dad sent me an invitation. He wants me to attend a gathering." "Your dad? Sitamingza?" Yang Cheng was puzzled and said, "Didn't you father and daughter break up a long time ago? Why does he still have the face to send you an invitation for no reason?" Xiang Wei smiled bitterly. "It's different this time. There's a special guest." "Who?" "Zhou Guangyin and his son." Yang Cheng thought about the information he got from Xiang Wei about Zhonghai's underground world and remembered who Zhou Guangyin was. If the West Union Society and Red Thorn Society were evenly matched, then the East Union Society's underground world was much more peaceful. Because more than 10 years ago, Zhou Guangyin, who had the nickname Old Catfish, had already unified the East Union Society by smuggling arms and selling drugs. After more than 10 years of development, the originally pure underworld leader had become the half-black, half-white tyrant of the East Union Society. Even the gang's previous name, Dongxing Gang, had been changed to Dongxing Group. Zhou Guangyin's direct subordinates had been planted in the fertile soil of Zhonghai. Whether it was West Union Society or Red Thorn Society, they were all too insignificant in front of Zhou Guangyin. A few years ago, before Xiang Wei betrayed Sitamingza and established Red Thorn Society, West Union Society's power could still be on par with the Dongxing Group. But now, the West Union Society was divided into two parts. In front of Dongxing, they were extremely weak. At this time, Zhou Guangyin and his son attended the small gathering hosted by Sitamingza. The meaning behind it was worth pondering. Yang Cheng felt a headache coming on and asked, "What do you want to do?" "What else can I do?" Xiang Wei smiled bitterly. "Although I can ignore that person's face, the Dongxing Group's power isn't something we can go against at the moment. If we don't go, then we'll be helping Dongxing and West Union Society to deal with us." At this point, Xiang Wei paused and looked at Yang Cheng. "Maybe because you're here, we can do what we did to Chindi Hai in the past. But Dongxing has already become a strict management team. Even if Zhou Guangyin and his son are dead, there will still be a large number of Dongxing members to deal with us. We'll be fine, but I can't ignore my brothers and sisters." "So you're saying that you know there's a tiger on the mountain, but you still want to go there?" Yang Cheng more or less understood. Xiang Wei suddenly smiled weirdly. She moved closer to Yang Cheng's ear and whispered something. Yang Cheng immediately wiped his forehead and looked at Xiang Wei cautiously. "I said you're a vixen and you still won't admit it. Looks like you've made up your mind to become Wu Song again." Xiang Wei hugged Yang Cheng's arm and said coquettishly, "Anyway, when the time comes, you have to come with me. You can't leave me alone." Feeling the smooth and delicate touch of Qiang Wei's chest on his arm, Yang Cheng felt that it was time to do something. Just as he was about to extend his evil claws towards the mysterious hemispherical area, the phone in his pocket rang. Gloomily, he took out his phone and saw that it was Mother Wang. The previous few times Mother Wang called, something happened. Yang Cheng didn't think much and immediately picked up. Chapter 87. Hello, Mother Wang, what's the matter? On the other end of the phone, Mother Wang seemed to find it difficult to speak. She hesitated for a while and said, Young master, I accidentally slipped when I was mopping the floor just now. Now I sprained my ankle and can't drive. Although Mother Wang was less than 50 years old, she was, after all, unforgiving. Yang Cheng asked worriedly, Is it serious? Why don't I go back and drive you to the hospital? No, there's no need to go to the hospital for such a small matter. I'll be fine after resting for a day or two. It's just that I wanted to send something to Miss, but I can't send it, so. Yang Cheng was relieved. He thought it was a big deal. Then I'll go back now. This is a small matter that should be done by me. Mother Wang stuttered. In fact, this thing really shouldn't be sent by you. But Miss doesn't have many friends, and even fewer can find time to do this. I'm embarrassed to trouble Miss M.O. and Secretary Wu Yu. They are busy and hard at work, so I had no choice but to ask you to do it on my behalf. It's okay, I'll go back now. Yang Cheng hung up the phone and saw Qiang Wei looking at him with a meaningful look. She looked a little resentful. I have to go now, Yang Cheng said as he touched his chin and avoided eye contact with her. Sure enough, a mistress is not as important as a wife. Qiang Wei sighed sadly. Go, I won't be angry. Baby Qiang Wei is such a good girl. Yang Cheng smiled and kissed her tender cheek. Do you want to come back at night? Qiang Wei shook her head. No, I'll be very busy these days. After all, I don't know the situation in Dongxing very well, so I have to do a lot of preparations. Yang Cheng nodded in understanding. When he was about to go out, he heard Qiang Wei suddenly say, Is your CO really prettier than me? Yang Cheng's legs softened, and he almost stumbled into the door. He turned back with a bitter smile. You already know. Yang Cheng left Rose with a bad feeling in his heart. He was worried that there would be a harem civil war in the future, just like in TV dramas, where women would poke at each other until their husbands couldn't even recognize them anymore. He shook his head to get rid of these senseless thoughts. What a joke! That was impossible. Lin Ruoshi's cold demeanor showed that she didn't care that he had a relationship with another woman. He quickly drove back to the villa in Dragon Garden. Mother Wang was already waiting at the door with a large Estee Lauder paper bag in her hand. The opening of the paper bag was sealed tightly so that the contents inside wouldn't be exposed. Yang Cheng didn't mind. He took the paper bag and looked at Mother Wang's feet with concern. Can you walk? Why do you look so frivolous? Mother Wang shook her head in relief. Thank you for your concern. It's just an accidental slip. It's nothing serious. It's happened before. Hurry up and deliver the things to Miss. I'm afraid Miss will feel uncomfortable if it's too late. Uncomfortable? Although Yang Cheng was curious why Lin Ruoshi would feel uncomfortable if she was late, he didn't say much and turned to leave the villa. 20 minutes later, Yang Cheng walked to Lin Ruoshi's ward. After confirming that there was no one inside, he walked in. Lin Ruoshi was leaning on the bed with her fine black hair casually draped over her shoulders. The light shone on her rosy cheeks, making her look lovely. At this moment, she was holding a book and studying it carefully. When she saw Yang Cheng enter, she unexpectedly nodded slightly. Was this a greeting? Yang Cheng felt a little strange because Lin Ruoshi used to be indifferent when she saw him. This was the first time she would greet him when they were alone. I'm here to deliver something to you. Mother Wang sprained her ankle, so it's not convenient for her to come. Yang Cheng put the paper bag on the cabinet and sat on a stool next to her. He asked, How's your recovery? The Chinese medicine is still effective, right? Lin Ruoshi put down the book and took out a white hand from under the quilt to rub her eyes. It's okay. Actually, it won't take so long. It's a waste of time. You work all year round, lie in a hospital, sign documents, and read financial books. Aren't you tired? Women shouldn't be so hard on themselves. Yang Cheng felt that he should educate this workaholic. You're still young. Don't lock yourself in the office and study all day. When you have time, go out to do facial masks, spa, hot springs, and milk baths. Find a sunny day to chat with your friends and have a cup of black tea in the afternoon. When the weather is hot, go to a cold drink shop to eat some strawberry cake ice cream. When the weather is cold, go to a tropical area to bask in the sun and have a vacation. When you have nothing to do after work, go to the commercial street to shop. Don't buy things, just look and try. Isn't that what you women love to do the most? Also, the car in your garage can be used for a car show. Even if you want to race, it's fine. If no one wants to race with you, I will. But you have to reimburse me for the gas. Lin Ruashi was indifferent. After listening to him, she pointed to the bag beside her and asked, "What did you bring? Can you not be like this? I've given you so many good suggestions. Are you even listening?" Yang Chung felt that Sister Lin's attitude was not right. Lin Ruashi sighed faintly and asked in a clear voice, "If I don't work hard, what will happen to the thousands of employees in the company? What about the thousands of family members of the employees? What about the Lin family business that my grandmother and mother left behind? What about me? Will you support me?" The sudden barrage of questions made Yang Cheng's scalp tingle. "You support me?" Was this something Lin Ruashi would say? Is this a question or a statement? Yang Chung came back to his senses and asked with an embarrassed smile. Lin Ruashi looked at the timid man in front of her with some disappointment. She felt that what she said was ridiculous. How could he replace her position and let a man who used to sell mutton skewers and only knew how to play games and fool around all day to share her burden? Lin Ruashi felt that her brain was heating up. Could it be that she held hope in him just because he gave her a box of glutinous rice balls? What was fake after all. Perhaps it would never become real. Lin Ruashi did not intend to continue this topic and did not answer Yang Chung. She took down the paper bag from the cabinet. Because the bag was relatively big, it was difficult for Lin Ruashi to carry it from the bed. So she simply flipped the bag over and poured all the things inside onto the bed. A lot of things rolled out of the bag. Not to mention the bright colors. The moment these things appeared in the room, the temperature in the room instantly rose by several degrees. No wonder Mother Wong had been hesitant to let Yang Chung deliver it. In the paper bag were all kinds of lingerie, panties, bras, and pantyhose. Not only were there colorful lace patterns, but there were also bold hollowed-out designs and narrow lines. If these sexy lingerie made Yang Cheng's nose feel hot, then the other styles of Lin Ruashi's lingerie were very terrifying. Hello Kitty, Snoopy Dog, Winnie the Pooh, and other cartoon characters' white and pink panties were enough to make Yang Cheng's jaw drop. What was even worse was that among these lingerie, there were 3 or 4 packages of imported sanitary pads with exquisite packaging. They must be high-end female products that Lin Ruashi was used to, so they had to be specially sent from home. Yang Cheng finally understood what Mother Wong meant by uncomfortable. It turned out that his wife had come during the few days of the month. In his mind, a series of lingering scenes appeared after their encounter at the nightclub. As long as he thought of Lin Ruashi's proud body wearing these clothes, it was difficult for Yang Chung to restrain his evil thoughts. Looking at the panicked Lin Ruashi, his eyes became hot. "Don't look." Lin Ruashi finally lost her calm. She forcefully lifted the quilt to cover these private items. Her pretty face instantly changed from the cold beauty of an ice goddess to a bright red apple. Careless. At the thought of the sexy lingerie that she secretly bought and collected, and the cartoon gadgets that she liked were all seen by Yang Chung, Lin Ruashi wanted to die. Mother Wong was really something. Why didn't she tell me in advance that she brought these things? Why didn't she bring some normal clothes? Otherwise, I wouldn't be so embarrassed. If Mother Wong knew what Lin Ruashi was thinking at the moment, she wouldn't know whether to laugh or cry. It wasn't that she didn't want to bring some normal clothes, but she really couldn't find a normal one in her room. Ahem. Yang Chung pretended to be calm. "Well, I've delivered the things, so I should go. You should rest early." "Okay." Lin Ruashi responded in a low voice. She couldn't wait to throw Yang Chung out of the window. Yang Chung moved to the door with difficulty. He couldn't help but turn around and say, "Your pink pants with Mickey Mouse's head is not bad. I like it." On the way out of the hospital and back to the car, Yang Chung still couldn't forget Lin Ruashi's last expression. That angry, watery eyes widened, and her charming face blushed. She looked like she was going to fight with him. It was much more beautiful than her usual indifferent look. After getting to know her for a long time, he found that this woman was really cute sometimes. In front of others, she was as cold and noble as a queen. However, he gradually found that she liked to watch those romantic and sentimental Japanese and Korean TV series. She liked to eat glutinous rice balls that children love to eat. She even pinched them with both hands and took small bites. Today, he also found that the clothes she wore were not only sexy and provocative, but also had a little girl's cartoon plot. Unconsciously, Yang Chung recalled the bits and pieces of the past few days. The car had already driven for a long distance. When he came back to his senses, Yang Chung was surprised to find that he had subconsciously driven to a place worth remembering, the small bar where he first met Lin Ruashi. Thinking of the scene where he carried Lin Ruashi back to his small, run-down house after drinking and had a crazy night, the flame in Yang Cheng's heart that had just been ignited because of the underwear rose again. In a short period of time, the flame that had been ignited by the two women at night had not been extinguished yet, which made Yang Cheng very uncomfortable. Men were often creatures with their lower bodies. Therefore, even though he knew that after he had hunted a top-quality beauty here, it was unlikely that there would be a second one, and perhaps there wouldn't be a second one in the whole of Zhonghai, Yang Cheng still stopped the car and decided to go in again. Not for anything else, but to find a suitable person to help him extinguish the fire. Chapter 88. Before entering the bar, Yang Cheng paid attention to the colorful words on the green neon lights at the entrance of the bar. He hadn't looked at it carefully before. Thorn. This bar had a strange name. The bluestone walls and dark brown wood decoration at the entrance revealed the atmosphere of a medieval European castle. Perhaps this was a good way to attract special people. At least Lin Ruashi chose to come to this small bar to drown her sorrows. As soon as Yang Cheng stepped into the bar, a soothing piano music hit his face. If he remembered correctly, Yang Cheng probably knew that this was Hungarian Rhapsody composed by Liszt. The name of this piece often gave people the illusion of a rough and passionate feeling, but in fact, it was elegant and noble. It was like a gorgeous cruise ship decorated by the royal family, drifting along a winding river upstream, sometimes slow, sometimes fast. The sudden sound of this kind of music in this seemingly narrow bar obviously added a lot of color to this quaint little bar. Some of the tables and chairs in the center of the bar were scattered to the side. Many young urban men and women gathered together, expressing all kinds of laughter and flirting. In this generally stressful city, the disco music used for dancing seemed to be unable to meet the spiritual needs of this group of white-collar workers. They chose to use the piano music of famous artists to gather in the exquisite and romantic little bar to express their dissatisfaction with society and satisfy their little reserve. After hearing this song, Yang Cheng, who originally had a flame in his chest, gradually calmed down. He didn't rush to search for the female creatures in the bar. Instead, he slowly sat in front of the bar and ordered a glass of ordinary whiskey from the bartender. The surrounding air was filled with the mixed smell of perfume and alcohol. Yang Cheng quietly sat in the corner of the bar, alone sipping the amber-colored liquor. His ears were all kinds of flirting and chatting not far away. This kind of emotional environment made Yang Cheng enjoy it very much. But the silence didn't last long. From another dark corner of the bar, a woman in a blue spaghetti-strap dress slowly walked out. Her skin was fair, her legs were slender, and her figure was graceful. It wasn't exaggerated, but it was exquisite and tight. She only had light makeup on, and her delicate facial features seemed to be drawn with ink, delicate and elegant. She had shoulder-length black hair that was slightly curled at the ends, and she wore 2 silver earrings. Her temperament was somewhat similar to that of a famous European or American model who casually strolled around after work. The only difference was that her figure was slightly smaller. This was a woman that was easy to fall in love with at first sight. Her beauty was not so stunning that it made one's heart beat faster, but it was hard to reject her. "Sir, may I have the honor of receiving your invitation for a drink?" The woman raised the wine glass in her hand, elegantly raised her head, and drained the last mouthful of peppermint wine in the glass in one gulp, then placed the empty glass on the bar counter and looked at Yang Chun with a smile. Not only did men know how to find prey, but women also knew how to find prey. This was not the first time Yang Chun had been treated as prey, so he did not feel uncomfortable. He smiled calmly and snapped his fingers at the young bartender beside him. "What would you like, miss?" The bartender asked the woman directly. "Brandy Alexander cocktail." A fluent London accent came naturally from the woman's small mouth. It did not make people think that she was showing off, as if it was how she should speak. What? The young bartender's English was obviously not very good. "Brandy Alexander, or Alexandra. Yang Chun kindly helped the bartender out of his predicament. The bartender had seen many situations. After thanking Yang Chun, he smiled apologetically at the woman and began to mix the wine smoothly. When the woman took the cocoa-colored wine in her hand, she looked at Yang Chun with some appreciation. "I'm sorry, I was abroad for a few years, so I don't know some of the names in China. However, very few people know the name Alexandra. It seems that you know a lot about wine, sir." Yang Chun raised his glass slightly to the woman. "To commemorate the wedding of King Edward VII of England and Queen Alexandra, I made this cocktail as a gift to the Queen. Many women like this taste. If you have the heart to get in touch with women, then it's nothing special for a man to know. But of all the men who came here, you're the only one who didn't go looking for a woman. Even if I didn't look for one, aren't you here?" Yang Chun chuckled. The woman looked at Yang Chun for a while and suddenly reached out her delicate white hand. "Anshin," and as in restless, heart as in troubled. A very special interpretation. Yang Chun found it interesting. Not only did this woman fit his requirements, but her taste and way of speaking were also very suitable for a night of pleasure. He reached out and shook Anshin's hand out of courtesy. "Yang Chun, when you need to write my name, I will tell you which 2 words it is. Your interpretation is more special, but it's much more interesting than other men." Anshin winked playfully. "Congratulations, you've aroused my interest in you." "What interest?" Yang Chun said. "Understanding my body structure. If you're willing to do an equivalent exchange, we can understand each other." Anshin didn't care about such a blatant hint. "I suspect that saying such words is not the real you. This is my interest. To put it simply, I want to see if the man in front of me can meet my requirements for an intimate male companion. Miss Anshin, the truth in this world often doesn't exist. If you're willing, I think it's best for you to judge based on your woman's keen intuition." Yang Chun looked up and down boldly at Anshin. It seemed that they were both women who needed to do something, so a lot of things could be said clearly. Anshin tilted her head. Her soft hair slightly covered her intoxicating redness due to the alcohol. She exhaled and asked with misty eyes, "Can you explain? I don't quite understand Mr. Yang's meaning." Being kept in suspense, Yang Chun was very helpless towards this clever woman. She had already made it clear that she wanted to spend the night with him. Why did she still ask so many questions? However, the atmosphere still needed to be maintained. So he asked, "Does Miss Anshin know the inventor of wireless?" Anyone who has read a book would know, Marconi. Anshin frowned slightly. This thought span was a bit big, but she was also smart. She asked, "Isn't this the truth? From the understanding of most countries in the Western world, it is indeed Marconi who invented wireless. However, in the textbooks of Soviet Russia, it has always been Popov. In Germany, it is Hertz. In the United States, it is Dreyfus. The simplest example is that Russia's Popov successfully developed wireless decades earlier than Marconi. However, because of the funding problem of 1,000 rubles, the Russian army directly rejected the great invention in their view. So, it was not until decades later that Marconi won the Nobel Prize." An Xian stared at Yang Chun. Amidst the ripples in her eyes, she chuckled. "Mr. Yang, although I don't know if what you said is true or not, but I have never heard a man say such words to me in an ambiguous atmosphere in a bar." Yang Chun took a sip of the wine and shook the glass in his hand slightly. "It doesn't matter. I don't know if Miss Anshin likes it." Anshin suddenly bent her soft waist forward and leaned close to the side of Yang Cheng's face. Her moist, and cool cherry lips kissed Yang Cheng's cheek lightly. She then smiled charmingly and said, "Congratulations, I belong to you tonight. It's my pleasure to serve you." Yang Cheng put down a glass. He finally succeeded in pretending. He grabbed Anshin's wrist and prepared to leave the bar. But at this moment, 4 or 5 strong men in suits and ties suddenly rushed into the bar. They all looked anxious. When they saw Yang Cheng holding Anshin's hand in an intimate posture, they all showed anger. "Miss Anshin, please go back with us," the leader of the men in black said with an inviolable tone. The customers in the bar felt the situation was tense. They all stopped talking and looked at the scene that was about to happen. An ex-IN indifferently glanced at the black-clothed men, then calmly looked at Yang Chun. Seeing that Yang Chun didn't have any fear in his calm expression, she revealed some admiration. "Seems like passing my test isn't enough. Mr. Yang, do you choose to abandon this pitiful little sheep, or become a knight who draws his spear and goes into battle?" Yang Chun sighed in his heart. Sure enough, good women were not so easy to get. But since he was in the mood, it didn't matter if it was troublesome or not. He smiled at Anshin and said, "If Miss Anshin can give me a blessing kiss, I think we will have an unforgettable time tonight." Without hesitation, Anshin, like a noble girl in love, gracefully hooked her hands around Yang Cheng's neck. Tilting her beautiful face, she kissed Yang Cheng's lips. Before leaving, she also used the tip of her warm tongue to leave a wet mark on Yang Cheng's face. "Fight bravely, my knight." Anshin let go of Yang Cheng's neck and retreated behind Yang Cheng. The men in black were already angry. The leader fiercely stared at Yang Cheng. "Young man, you will regret what you did tonight for the rest of your life." Yang Cheng sneered and leisurely picked up his glass from the bar. Without warning, he poured the rest of the wine in the glass toward the man. The leader didn't expect Yang Cheng to use the insulting method of pouring wine. He couldn't dodge in time. Half of his suit was stained with wine. "You're courting death." The leader angrily cursed and rushed up to punch Yang Cheng. Yang Cheng very calmly received the punching bag's punch with one hand. His palm lightly restrained the man's wrist. Without waiting for the man's other hand to exert force, Yang Cheng abruptly turned the man's entire arm in an exaggerated arc. The man who was about to resist screamed loudly. His whole body involuntarily followed the twisted arm and played the role of a spinning top in front of Yang Cheng. Behind Yang Cheng, Anshin's eyes lit up. Looking at Yang Cheng's leisurely back, she revealed an overflowing surprise. The other men in black finally realized that the situation was not right. They loudly shouted and were about to attack Yang Cheng. "Give it back." When Yang Chun saw them approaching him, he suddenly grabbed the other arm of the man in his hand. As if he was playing with a rag doll, he turned his body sideways and violently threw the man forward. A man close to 2 meters tall was like a long stick, smashing into the rest of the men. Seeing the tall and strong men in black were all knocked down, everyone present revealed a look of horror. How could this man's strength be so great? "Let's go get a room." Yang Cheng grabbed Anshin's hand. Stepping on the men in black who were screaming in pain, he calmly walked out of the bar. Chapter 89. Many women would dream of a prince on a white horse. They dreamed that when they were in danger, a handsome, powerful, and noble prince would fall from the sky. After defeating the evil, he would give them a passionate kiss and make a beautiful vow of eternal love. Anshin was no exception. Even though she understood from a very young age that the one riding on a white horse was not necessarily a prince, but Tang Sanzang, she would still occasionally have such a beautiful dream. Especially when she had no other choice. After returning to China for a few days, Anshin even hoped that the Superman who wore his underwear on the outside really existed, even if he really affected the city's appearance. From the moment Yang Cheng took her hand and left the thorn bar, Anshin felt that happiness came so suddenly. She followed Yang Cheng all the way to the car and then sat in the passenger seat. She didn't even bother to buckle her seat belt and threw herself into Yang Cheng's arms. She lazily hugged him and passionately kissed Yang Cheng's cheeks and neck. Yang Cheng was helpless against Anshin, who suddenly became emotional. He hugged her soft and elastic body, and his right hand extended down along the curve of her large waist. He pinched her perky buttocks and slapped them twice. Anshin let out a soft moan, and her face instantly turned red. In the dark car, the seductive face that was not shown before looked breathtakingly beautiful. In Yang Cheng's understanding, this woman was actually very sultry. You belong to me, not I belong to you. Sit in your seat and fasten your seatbelt. Don't delay the business. Yang Cheng said with no room for refusal. Anshin was like a well-behaved kitten. She felt wronged and reluctantly touched Yang Cheng's chest before returning to her seat. Her seductive movements and seductive eyes made Yang Cheng impatiently start the car and roar away. It was almost midnight, and there were very few cars on the road. Yang Cheng almost didn't wait for a few red lights before he arrived at his destination. The nearest five-star hotel to the Bar Street, Jade Cloud's Hotel. Jade Cloud Corporation was one of Zhonghai's few well-known old brands. It had many branches under its banner, and its reputation was pretty good. At the very least, Yang Chun, who had just returned to the country not too long ago, knew that Jade Cloud's hotel's facilities were one of the best among the few five-star hotels. In fact, if it was an ordinary one-night stand, Yang Cheng could even choose a small hotel. However, the woman in front of him was obviously a well-educated lady, so the place he chose had to match this match. After getting out of the car, Yang Cheng directly gave the hotel key to the waiter and asked him to park the car. He took Anshin's hand and quickly walked to the front desk to ask for a room. Seeing that Yang Cheng was in such a rush, Anshin couldn't help but let out a bell-like laughter. There's no need to rush. It's not like I'm going to run away later. Yang Cheng hugged Anshin's small waist and kissed her on the cheek. You seductress, it's all because of you. When the hotel's waitress saw these two young men and women who looked like rich people speaking flirtatious words so brazenly, she felt a little awkward. She quickly booked a large room with a double bed for Yang Chun. The two took the elevator directly to the 23rd floor. As soon as they got out of the elevator, Anshin pushed Yang Cheng against the wall and once again pressed her hot body against his and wantonly kissed the man's lips. Damn it! Roaring vaguely, Yang Chen opened his teeth and responded passionately, unwilling to be outdone. Their tongues intertwined, and their saliva flowed like two intertwining vines, hugging each other tightly as they moved to the door. Yang Cheng didn't even look at the door lock as he accurately inserted the room card in his hand into the narrow gap. The light on the door turned green, and it was pushed open. At this time, Anshin finally couldn't breathe due to the obstruction of breath. Her petal-like lips were already slightly swollen, but they looked even more alluring. Panting, Anshin's eyes were blurred. You almost suffocated me with your kiss. The more suffocating part is yet to come. Yang Cheng kicked the door closed, and his hands restlessly kneaded Anshin's fleshy butt. Do you have the honor of asking Miss Anshin to bathe with me? Please undress me, Mr. Yang. Yang Cheng's hands were so fast that Anshin was a little dazzled. Not long after, the two were already in the bathtub that was the size of 4 people and enjoying the warm water baptism. Yang Cheng's hands were stained with shower gel as he caressed Anshin's jade-like skin. He didn't miss a single inch. Her slightly flushed body exuded an impressive charm under the soft bathroom light. What a considerate man. You're even more meticulous than me bathing myself. When Yang Cheng's hands caressed some secret and ambiguous parts, Anshin couldn't help but tremble and exhale. Yang Cheng smiled evilly. Then, as a qualified partner, Miss Anshin should give me the same service. Anshin innocently bit Yang Cheng's shoulder and glanced at him flirtatiously. Then a delicate little hand suddenly grabbed onto Yang Cheng's valiant tool under the water. Yang Cheng felt Anshin's hand tremble slightly. Her pretty face was a little unnatural, but it disappeared in a flash. You're very well endowed. Anshin began to gently serve Yang Cheng. It's been too long since he received this kind of service from a woman. Even when he was together with Rose, who was relatively conservative in this aspect, would still be shy to the point of not daring to touch certain things. At this moment, the beauty whom he had just met not too long ago was looking at him with a seductive expression and offering her tender little hands. Yang Chun felt his blood frantically rushing to his brain. Carrying Anshin's body out of the water, Yang Chung took a large blanket and simply wiped the water stains off their bodies. He didn't care about Anshin's wet hair that was still dripping with water and quickly walked out of the bathroom. He threw Anshin directly onto the center of the bed. Her snow-white body that had just finished bathing was dazzling. The naked beauty was looking at him with a smile. She wasn't the slightest bit dissatisfied with such a rough move. Yang Chung breathed heavily and pounced on this soft as velvet female body. After kissing the woman passionately for a while, he raised the long spear that had long been ready and went straight in. What surprised Yang Chung was that the valley of the beauty beneath him wasn't as soft as he thought it would be. Instead, it was as green as a sheep's intestines. Not long after he went in, he actually encountered a layer of weak resistance. Yang Cheng's mind immediately became clear. He asked in surprise, "You're a virgin?" Anshin's pretty face was covered with beads of sweat. It seemed like she was forcefully enduring the pain in her lower body. But at this moment, she grinned and said, "So what if I am?" After saying that, the woman took the initiative to push her buttocks forward, directly breaking through all the obstacles. Yang Chung felt that his soul almost flew out. As soon as Anshin finished her brave move, she cried out in pain. At that moment, her eyebrows were slightly knitted together. The expression of pain on her face made people feel endless pity for her. "Are you okay?" Yang Chung felt a wave of bitterness in his heart. Actually, he really didn't have any virgins in his heart. He originally wanted to find a beautiful woman, but why did he go to that bar twice and meet a virgin both times? Damn it, I'm not going to that stupid bar next time, Yang Chung thought bitterly. Anshin seemed to see Yang Cheng's hesitation. She pressed her hands on Yang Cheng's back and said with dissatisfaction, "If you're a man, then don't have any scruples when attacking. I want a brave knight, not a cowering deserter. I'm not afraid, even though I'm a virgin. So what are you afraid of? You'll regret it." The arrogance of a man was aroused. Yang Chung, who was originally suppressing the comfortable feeling, finally let go of everything. He didn't care that the beauty beneath him was still a melon for the first time. He wantonly attacked. The plum blossomed a few times. In the end, the two who were soaked in sweat intertwined together. After releasing the heat in their bodies, they hugged each other and fell asleep. The next morning, Yang Chung woke up in a daze. At this time, Anshin was already dressed. It should have been a while since she woke up. She was still wearing the same blue dress, elegant and bright. However, compared to last night, her face was more beautiful because of the moisture. She was sitting on the white sofa next to the bed. She was holding a small bottle of Bordeaux red wine that was prepared in the room. She poured some into 2 small glasses. "Cheers to our happy night." Anshin handed the glass to Yang Chung. The woman in front of him had a proper appearance. It was hard to imagine that the figure who was wildly pandering to her last night was the same person. She was the typical type who could go to the hall and warm the bed. Yang Chung took the glass with a smile and drank it in one gulp. "Thank you, Mr. Yang Chung." Anshin suddenly showed a serious expression and said with a bit of bitterness, "Because of what happened last night, it may have brought you a lot of trouble, but I think you should have also obtained a lot of fun from me." Yang Chung felt a bit strange when he heard this and asked, "What do you mean? What trouble?" Anshin smiled apologetically. "You will know soon." At this moment, the door of the room was knocked on with a bang, bang, bang. "Open the door." Yang Chung was stunned. What was going on? He wanted to put on his clothes and pants, but he was still naked. But the person who came was obviously stronger than Yang Chung imagined. Before Yang Chung opened the door was open from the outside. Several policemen in police uniforms with solemn expressions suddenly rushed in. The policemen's eyes swept back and forth between Yang Chung and Anshin, and the leading policeman took out a search warrant. "Police sweep. Nobody move." Click, click. Following behind the police were several reporters with cameras in their hands, rushing to be the first to press the shutter. Yang Cheng's face was stupefied as he sat on the bed with his arms bare. He had no time to care about whether he was wearing his underwear or not. He was completely dumbfounded. Click! The camera flashed in front of him, and the scene was frozen at this moment. Chapter 90. Entering the police station early in the morning, Yang Chun felt that it wasn't a good sign. At the very least, He wasn't able to bring breakfast for his female colleagues in the office today. When he returned, he would definitely be bombarded by gunfire. With handcuffs on his hands, under the watch of 2 police officers, Yang Cheng and Anshin entered the police station together. Yang Cheng looked at Anshin, who didn't say anything and couldn't help but ask, "Did you deliberately set me up, or did I just happen to be the target?" Anshin looked at Yang Cheng with embarrassment. At this moment, everyone obviously understood what was going on. "You just happened to be the target," Anshin whispered. A famous 5-star hotel, like Jade Cloud's Hotel, wouldn't be searched by the police casually. The reason why Yang Cheng was caught as soon as he came out was obviously because of Anshin's scheme. A woman gave her first time to a man she met in a nightclub for the first time. After going to the hotel, she called the police and let them catch her. What's worse, not only did she inform the police, but she also called the media. Yang Cheng felt that if Anshin wasn't crazy, then the world was crazy. He was also crazy. Why did such a big pie just happen to fall on his head? Sometimes it's not a good thing for a man to be liked by a woman, Yang Cheng narcissistically thought. Although he didn't know why Anshin did this, Yang Cheng wasn't too interested. He was just thinking about how to deal with the next series of events. "Don't whisper. Let's go," one of the policemen shouted. Yang Cheng turned around and smiled. "Officer comrade, you've worked hard. I won't whisper anymore. I'll speak louder, but I can't leave quickly. If I run away, you'll have to catch me again." Seeing the angry faces of the policemen, Anshin, who was in a bad mood, couldn't help but chuckle. This man's reaction was really strange. He clearly knew that she had used him and caused him to go to the police station, which might ruin his reputation, but he could still make fun of the police. If he wasn't broad-minded enough, then he was terrifyingly shrewd. After entering the police office, the 2 of them were about to be interrogated. A familiar figure was already standing beside the desk, not far away. Choi Yun, who was dressed in a dark green police officer uniform, was still as graceful and valiant as ever. She crossed her arms in front of her chest, making her bulging breasts particularly conspicuous. If it weren't for the frostbitten coldness on her pretty face, she would definitely be the best choice for a seductive uniform. "Officer Kai, we meet again." Yang Cheng greeted him with a bitter smile. The place where they met was a little terrible. Choi Yun sneered. "You've improved. Last time, you even went to the police station with the triads. This time, he was caught fooling around with women in a hotel. I hope your wife is broad-minded enough. Otherwise, I don't mind punishing you on her behalf." Choi Yun had just arrived at work early in the morning when she heard from her subordinates that a man and woman were found having a special relationship at Jade Cloud's Hotel. Because one of the women's identity was a little sensitive, the case was immediately reported to her, the bureau chief. However, she didn't expect that other than the woman's slightly special background, the man was actually Yang Cheng. She didn't like him from the start, but now that he was the husband of her good sister, Lin Ruoshi, and his wife was in the hospital, he still dared to do such a thing behind her back. Choi Yun was so angry that she almost flipped the table. She was determined to personally investigate this matter. Yang Cheng didn't take Choi Yun's harsh words to heart. He smiled and said to Anshin, "This is Bureau Chief Kai, my wife's good sister." He looked very intimate, as if they were old acquaintances. Anshin was stunned. She didn't expect that the person she hooked up with was a married man. So this guy came out to cheat on her. Seems like he's not a good man. Thinking of this, Anshin felt less guilty. Seeing that Yang Cheng was still smiling and introducing the beautiful police officer in front of her, she felt that this man was really thick-skinned. She forced a smile and said, "Hello, Bureau Chief Kai." Kai naturally didn't have any good intentions toward an exile. Women were always jealous of women who were as beautiful as themselves, especially when it was a slut whose first impression was terrible. "Missin, you're also a person of status. You have a good appearance, but you're doing such a dirty thing like seducing a married man. You become an adulterer. Do you still have any respect for the law?" Anshin smiled indifferently and said, "That's why I was arrested and was even photographed by the media. Everyone makes mistakes. If Bureau Chief Kai wants to interrogate me, Anshin will definitely cooperate." Shameless. Choi Yun snorted coldly. Don't think that just because you have your family backing you up, we will do it half-heartedly. What I want to know is the truth. Yang Chung raised his hand and said, the truth is actually very simple. The two of us drank too much and couldn't help but do something that is beyond the normal friendship between a man and a woman. A young police officer who was taking notes slammed the table and said, don't talk nonsense. Prostitution is prostitution. Selling meat is selling meat. Tell me the truth. Yang Chung sighed in distress and patiently explained, this police officer, I'm not talking nonsense. I'm done with this woman. She didn't pay me, so it can't be considered prostitution. Even if she wanted to sell herself, she didn't sell herself. The other police officers at the scene couldn't help but laugh out loud. Even Anshin felt that it was too explicit. Her pretty face blushed, and she rolled her eyes at Yang Chung. What money? Selling? Why didn't she realize that this man was so shameless last night? But it was fun. Choi Yun felt that the atmosphere wasn't right. She coughed, and the surrounding police officers immediately quieted down. Don't try to win with words. You're a hooligan, you're a scoundrel. We can't win against you in an argument, so we won't talk about this with you. Choi Yun stared coldly at Yang Chung and said disdainfully, but today's incident has already been known by the media. I think even if we don't teach you two a lesson, your family and friends probably won't let this go. Anshin's face was relaxed as she twirled her long hair with her fingers and said calmly, Bureau Chief Kai, if there's nothing else, I think we can talk after we meet with our lawyer. Your lawyer is here. Choi Yun suppressed her anger and pointed at the two bald men who walked in. One of them looked familiar to Yang Chung. It was Lawyer Zhang who brought him out when he first came to the police station. Seeing him, Yang Chung knew that Choi Yun had already told Lin Ruashi about the incident. As for the other one with a briefcase, he was probably Anshin's lawyer. Seeing the lawyer come in, Choi Yun didn't have time to pay attention to the two of them. She started to negotiate with the two lawyers and described the process of the case in detail. Yang Chung took the opportunity to ask Anshin, I say, Missin, can you explain the cause of all this? Although I didn't shed blood for you, I still spent hundreds of millions on you. You have to at least tell me the reason why I was played to death by you. Anshin pouted in confusion. What hundreds of millions of capital? I remember I paid for the room when we left the hotel. You only treated me to a glass of wine. Don't brag. That's not right. How can your vulgar money compare to my hundreds of millions of that? That man's essence. Seeing the evil smile on Yang Cheng's face, Anshin suddenly understood what the so-called essence was. She couldn't help but fiercely pinch Yang Cheng's soft waist. Her charming face turned red. You still dare to say it. You tormented me for the whole night without any protection. If I get pregnant, I'll knock on your door with the baby in my arms. Let's see what your wife will do. This? What else can I do? I'll take them all, both women and children. Yang Chung said with a domineering face. Anshin pursed her lips and smiled. Save it. After this matter is over, we'll go our separate ways. If you really want me to give birth to your child, then wait until you have the ability to meet me. No way, you're so heartless. Wait, you still haven't told me why all this happened. Yang Chung asked. Anshin hesitated for a moment before she lowered her head in shame. The reason why I came back this time was because my father forced me to marry a guy that I don't like. I don't want to marry, but I have no way to easily dispel their thoughts, so you chose to give your body to a stranger, and then use this as a sacrifice to force the man to become one of the victims of your plan. You ruined your own reputation so that the man would give up on the idea of marrying you. Yang Chung didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why did he always encounter this kind of thing? Wiping his face, he dryly smiled and said, Fortunately, you're a beauty that's worth it. Otherwise, I would have suffered a great loss. Anshin thought that Yang Chung would fly into a rage after hearing this ridiculous matter. However, Yang Chung still had a smile on his face as he carefully asked, Aren't you angry? I lied to you and even brought you so much trouble. Yang Chung laughed. It's not my first time in the police station. Moreover, reputation can't be eaten. What you did didn't cause me to lose anything that I truly care about. On the contrary, I feel that I've profited. Not only did I sleep with a beautiful virgin, I don't even have to take any responsibility. Humph! I can also see that your skin is unimaginably thick. That layer of membrane of mine is really undeserved. Anshin pretended to be angry as she angrily waved her fist. Not waiting for the two to chat for a long time, Choi Yun and two lawyers came over. Choi Yun was a little discouraged as she said, "The two of you can leave now." After all, the lawyers of both sides were famous lawyers, and Choi Yun didn't have enough evidence, so she could only let them go. But before they left, Choi Yun sneered at Yang Chung and said, "You can't just wait to divorce Ruashi. She knows everything." Yang Chung touched his nose. He didn't feel that his marriage existed at all. Even if Lin Ruashi knew about it, it would probably be like a fleeting cloud. After leaving the two lawyers to deal with the aftermath, the man and woman, who had just entered the police station not long ago, walked out of the police station under the contemptuous gazes of the police officers. As soon as they arrived at the parking lot, Yang Chung and Anshin saw two black S-Series Mercedes-Benz parked not far from them. Anshin's face was a little ugly as she bitterly smiled and said, "They came really fast."